Hola, mi gente. Hi, how are you? Saturday night, baby. Let me get a mic check real quick. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Let's get this Saturday night started. Yeah. I'm a little tired, but I believe that y'all gonna get me through tonight. All right, good. Welcome to another episode of On the Block with Jen. I'm YouTube's bad girl and your favorite devil's advocate, Jen. How are you, mi gente? If it's your first time here, buckle up and welcome. I hope you like it. You will. To my regulars, how are you, darlings? Hold me down in the chat. If you want to follow me on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at Gmail, it is On the Block with Jen across the board. Just type in On the Block with Jen, no matter what social media platform you are on, okay? Let's take care of a little business because every show got to pay the bills. If you want to support Mama and help her keep the church lights on, hit me at Cash App, On the Block with Jen as well. So I'm On the Block with Jen, even on Cash App, On the Block with Jen on all social media platforms. Also On the Block with Jen at Gmail. That is my suggestion box. If you want to throw a topic in there I haven't covered yet, or you want to talk about a collaboration, or you want to talk about an interview, it is On the Block with Jen at Gmail. That is where I get all your feedback, okay? Don't junk mail my Gmail, okay? Don't junk mail my Gmail. Throw topics in there. With that said, I get a lot of topic ideas. Does not mean that I'm going to pick yours. I like picking topics that I think would be good for my panel to dissect and also that my audience would like. Doesn't mean that I won't go outside the box. It just has to be interesting. So don't send something in there and you're like, wow, she hasn't read it. She hasn't talked about it. Maybe it just wasn't for the show. You never know, okay? So throw it in there. We'll see what we can do for you here on the Block with Jen. I hope you're having a great Saturday evening. Last night was Freaky Friday on the Block with Jen, and a lot of information was given. A lot of information was given on Freaky Friday. The subject was, who's freakier, men or women? And we all divulged a lot of information, okay? To the point where apparently YouTube thinks you have to be 18 or over to watch that stream now. So yes, before you click play on last night's stream, Freaky Friday, you have to click you are over 18, because we got very, very X-rated, all right? But we were teaching. It was free game, right? Who could get mad at free game? But it was quite freaky. Okay, guys. Can you make me some mofongo with steak, Jen? Pretty please. No, sir. No, sir. You know how you guys feel about not spending money on women? Like, I'm not going to spend money on her. I don't know her like that. That's how I feel about my cooking. I don't just cook for any old body, okay? All right, guys. What's up, No Saint? So I'm going to drop the, before I get into this topic tonight, tonight's topic, if you missed the thumbnail, is the 6-year-old who shot the teacher in Newport News, Virginia. Yes, there was a 6-year-old, a baby. Okay, only been on the planet 6 years, but apparently he had the wherewithal to get a pistol. Now we don't know if it was his mama's pistol or his daddy's pistol, but he felt the need to take it to school and blow a hole in his teacher. Okay, she was critically injured, but she is now out of critical condition. So you know what I mean? Shorty meant business. Okay, he said today's going to be the day. Now we're going to speculate today, right? Because we don't have all the information. But, without all the information, we can still speculate. What on earth drove a 6-year-old to pop his teacher in the middle of the class? That's pretty serious, is it not? All right. Well, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let me drop the stream invite. You guys can come up. It doesn't have to always be my panel. Yes, my panel is pretty much permanent participants, but anyone is free to come up. If you're not free to come up showing your face, sucks for you. We do faces here on the Block with Jen. We want you to say it with your chest. A lot of you have the luxury of popping a lot of shit behind your avatars. And let's face it, YouTube lets you get away with it. But here on the Block with Jen, this is the block, okay? And on the block, we say it with our chest and with our faces. So you guys can, parlay it in the chat, argue with each other in the chat, talk shit in the chat, and hide behind your avatars. That's fine. We accept y'all too. You just can't get on the panel, because on the panel, we look at each other in the face when we talking our shit, okay? Okay. So you're all welcome nonetheless, but not up on the panel if you're not going to show your face. Just keep hiding and do what you do and live your best life behind your avatar. We don't mind. You just can't get up here. We already have a comment. He learned that from his parents. Did he? Maybe. Jono said we're going to discuss it tonight. I have my theories per usual. I'm sure my panelists will have theirs. And let's see if we agree or our minds collide tonight. Okay. Welcome, No Saint Haran DeMarco. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Good
evening.
Good evening. Good evening. So, No Saint, I was not going to do this topic because you did say you heard me on the Star Report. You guys know I'm a regular caller into the Star Report, and I gave my 2 cents tonight. And No Saint was like, Jen, you got to talk about this. And I was like, I wasn't gonna, but he twisted my arm. So here we go.
Yeah, I did, because we were talking about this today. I'm at work, and I brought it up.
I'd love to hear what the firemen's thought about it.
I mean, nobody could. We're all kind of. Well, we got the one guy who's a conspiracy theorist. So of course he says it sounds like a false flag.
Right, crisis actors. There was a guy in the Star Wars that had crisis actors.
Yeah, I always got that one.
There's a 6-year-old crisis actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
hiring them young now. Okay.
But what I was hearing in the Star Report, and I know, like, he always does the extreme stuff, right? So, but as far as some of his opinions, he provokes and he he says some off the wall stuff. But I was saying earlier today, I was like, Well, when I talked to Erica about it, because I was meant to bring it up on your show last night, but it wasn't the topic. But I'd forgotten to even mention it. But
Mhm.
I'm like, when I was 6 years old, I would never think about killing somebody,
Mhm.
much less a teacher.
Mhm.
And my kids were 6-year-old, and they wouldn't have even know how to put those thoughts together, kill somebody, much less a teacher.
Mhm.
What the hell is this kid's environment like? Now, I don't know. We still don't know um, anything about the 6-year-old. We have no idea. I don't think they even have what background, or anything. So we don't know anything about them. But I did mention, because we have where I work, we have people from a lot of different places, and have been a lot of different places, a lot of military, ex-military too. And when I said Newport News, one of the guys said, what do you say? He called it bad port news, or bad. Anyway, it's got a reputation.
Okay.
Newport News, I guess, evidently has a bad reputation, but it's crazy the stuff I like when you even like. I agree with you. You can't like, for anybody watching. There was one person on there that claims mental ill, that maybe it was mental illness, and Jen kind of shot that down. And I agree. You can't say it's a 6-year-old mental illness. I mean, that's just. But what is that kid seeing? And I don't want, what is he seeing? What's his environment like that you would even think? And I guess some of the pushback, Jen, and I'm not sure if you said this, but I think you were saying this, was like maybe the teacher got what did you say? Maybe she got
She was
uh
condescending.
condescending. I'm thinking to myself, okay, but you're in first grade. That's not something new. Like when I was going to school, teachers a lot, condescending, or I mean, I don't know. That's just, to me, that can't even be an excuse. A 6-year-old has nobody has any business shooting another person for being condescending. I mean, that's just.
That's a really weird excuse because it's like, oh yeah, she made me feel stupid, so I went and shot her.
I'm gonna let y'all finish now. Haran, go on. I'm gonna let y'all finish.
No, I'm saying it's just a weird excuse. It's a really weird excuse because it's like, yeah, she was condescending. Okay, so you wanted to respond by doing something stupid. You know what I mean? Like shooting her. Like first of all, to sit here and question what kind of environment he lives in. It's a boy, right?
A boy.
Yeah, yeah. To question what kind of environment he lives in. Well, first of all, it's Virginia, right? It's Virginia, the
Yeah.
good old red state. That's period.
That's a state's on the cusp, man.
You know what I
That's
mean?
one of those. That's a swing state, actually. But
There are no swing states. There are no swing states. Okay. Never believe the hype on that one. You know what I mean? Virginia is a red state. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure there's some places in VA where I just can't go at certain points.
Oh, no, no. But
at night.
you're talking about, like, if you're talking about like Martinsville, Virginia, that's kind of, yeah, I know what you mean. It's a southern state, but it's also, you have the
New York is a blue state. There's no place in New York I can go to that I'm in trouble. And
Yeah.
no matter what time of day it is.
But what I'm saying is you have DMV there too, the DMV area.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's part of the. So it depends on what part of the state. That's all I'm saying.
Me personally, if there's a part of the state where I can't go at a particular time, that's a red state. That's a red state in my opinion. So I'll just leave it there. But anyway, obviously he lives amongst some careless parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where was this gun?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was it just, I don't know, was it laying up at the foot of the couch? I don't know. How is a 6-year-old able to just grab a gun and load up and know what he's doing? If he knows what he's doing, if he shot her, that means that kid knows how to shoot. That means someone taught that kid that means someone taught that kid how to shoot. So, you know, I mean, that means those adults probably had this kid loaded up firearms at 3.
Mhm.
So you don't know. So that's probably the culture he lives in at home. So, and also that's probably how in his mind he thought was the best way to handle conflict
Mhm.
by shooting a motherfucker.
Mhm.
You know, and I think that some time needs to be taken to really study what's going on in the home and all this mental illness and so on and so forth, throwing all that nonsense around. Man, come on, man, get the fuck out of here. I mean, of course, I don't think he'll be tried as an adult or
No,
even,
it's in
you know, what I mean,
Virginia. They don't. They're not going to try him as an adult.
no, I
That's
mean,
already
I'm
out there.
right. You
That's
know,
the
what I mean,
law.
I'm
Yeah.
sure, you know, what I mean, I don't know what's going to happen after this, but you know, I'm sure it's at best, I don't know. We might get therapy. I don't know, but am I at all shocked that something like this happened? Not really.
Not in this country. Anyway.
Nah. Nah, no, I'm not. It's I guess it's sad that something like that doesn't shock me in this country.
That is. I was
'Cause-
about to say that's a sad state because it does. I know, like Jen said, I guess there's, I don't know, she looked it up, maybe 17 incidents that happened since 1970 or something like that. But but that is rare, and I just I can't imagine because I can think Jen has a daughter. I have kids, and I can remember when I was 6, 7, 8 years old,
Mhm.
and that I was too busy even in school, yeah. I just, that kind of stuff would never cross my mind. It's just like, I don't know. And I don't know anybody that crosses their mind. You know what I mean? I don't know.
The nice innocence of white.
I was just about to say, like, notice the ethnics.
Yeah, where you
Notice
live.
notice the ethnics aren't really agreeing with him right now.
I'm
Like,
about to say,
yeah,
I said
me
that shit a
too.
lot growing up. I'm like, I'm about
I
to shoot
like
this motherfucker. I said it a
But
lot
at
growing up. I
six,
would
notice
never do it, but I
six,
said it.
the ethnics in the room are like,
at
well,
6 though, really, at 6 years old.
So let me respond. First and foremost, I never said it was an excuse. I said it as a possible reason. A reason and an excuse is two different things. Okay. I'm not excusing anyone for blowing anyone away unless they're protecting their lives, but it could be a possible reason. We're speculating tonight, right? It could be a possible reason. I'll speak about my experience. My daughter, inner city, mostly Black and brown kids. You know what I mean? When there's white teachers, they handle the children a certain way. And I know I've had to show up to school a couple times and let them know you can fuck around over there, but this one right here is mine. And you and I are going to have a personal problem if you talk to her a certain type of way. So that's another possibility. I mean, it's no different than white cops policing, you know what I mean, Black and brown neighborhoods. There's a certain air that white people come in with, right? Because they can't relate. What 6-year-old is talking about shooting a gun, right? When I was about, I would say 7, 8 years old, my dad would come home from work all the time and leave his gun on the dresser all the time. And when he wasn't around, when dad wasn't around, guess he used to pick up the gun just to see how heavy it was. Now, I didn't know how to work a gun. I could have shot him, myself, or anybody in the house. But this is a reality in certain homes, right? Whose gun is it? Was it the mother's gun? Was it the father's gun? Obviously, the child understood what maiming someone with a gun was, at the very least. I spoke about on the show, you know, with science, I'm like this. With religion, I'm absolutely zip, because I feel like things change, right? And science has to change as you go on as well. When they talk about the what is it called?
Big Bang.
The prefrontal cortex doesn't
No.
develop till you're 18, and you know, the thing that controls your impulses doesn't develop. The 6-year-olds of today are not the 6-year-olds of old. They are not 6 years old when we were 6 years old. These kids are freaking coding on their iPads. You know, they're picking music. I mean, my baby, my grandson at 3 years old, he's choosing what to watch on YouTube. He's like, no, not this one, with his little finger. Okay. So these kids are different. I told you one time I was watching YouTube with him and we thought we were watching Moana, and Moana pops up with Maui, and we're thinking it's like, oh look, it's Moana and Maui. They did the cartoon to look exactly like Disney, and Maui shoots Moana in the head. This is on YouTube. So imagine a child that's left unattended scrolling through YouTube, right? And people say, well, no, there's locks on YouTube, and now there's kids YouTube. They are infiltrating everything a child is looking at. The Roblox, for instance, they got sex on Roblox. They got people dying on Roblox. So it's everywhere, and it's hard. If you were going to be a parent that chooses to put technology in your child's hands, and you're not going to be over their shoulder 24 hours a day, it is a big mistake, and your child will be seeing something that they should not be seeing, whether it's sexual or violence. So we don't know what this child was exposed to. We don't know if he's Black, white, or Latin. We don't know yet. They haven't released that yet, but we're going to find out. So I was just speculating because I know in my experience, sometimes teachers can be condescending. I had a teacher literally picking on my daughter. All right. My daughter was about 7, 8 years old. And I was like, I will go to jail. I know you see me, coming home from my corporate job and my little kitten heels. I will go to jail. Like, do not mess with my child. And she always had like this thing with her. And I'm sorry, my daughter she's gorgeous. Who's ever seen my daughter knows she is gorgeous. That face, okay? So she was constantly picking on her, and children were constantly telling them, respect your elders. Teachers is an authority figure in a class, respect your elders. And sometimes kids don't come home and tell the parents that teacher's bothering me, because in their minds, they think it's okay that the teacher is bothering me, right? So, just speculating, that could be another possibility. I don't know. I don't know this lady. We're not in the classroom, but we're just throwing things out there. The New York Post said that she's in her 20s. I saw her picture. She doesn't look like...
she's in her 30s.
Right. She doesn't look like she's in her 20s, but the New York Post is damn near satire at this point. Okay.
Yeah. They reported yesterday she was in her 30s.
Right. So, she looks more like she's in her 30s. Today they're saying she's in her 20s, unless she's aging in the white dog years. She can't.
Kid pulled a gun and shot her. She might have aged 10 years.
And he almost killed her. She was in condition. Okay. He almost killed her. So, at this point, we don't know, but what could possibly, be going on in the home? I know I had access to a gun at that age because my dad used to come home from work and, there it is in the cabinet. And I was like, he's looking. Yay. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but okay. I'm just listening. So, okay. I grew up, the guy across the streets was my best friend, and his dad had a ton of guns in the closet. And I remember one time when I was 10 or 11, my friend picking it up and doing that whole number where he's putting it like towards you and stuff like that. It wasn't loaded, but I remember thinking this is how people die, even at 10 or 11 years old. I was scared. But again, like, guns aren't unique to like people, Black and brown people. There's a lot of white people have guns. You know what I mean? And I don't, man. But I want to speak to what you were speaking. There's a few things I want to speak to that you said. So, okay, yeah, they got all this access to stuff on YouTube, but we had a lot of access to a lot of violence too. It was no different when I was growing up. Their TV had violence, video games. I mean, video games been around a long time. Most video games were violent. Movies were violent. I don't, and I get what you're saying. Okay, so kids this age, at younger ages, maybe a little bit more savvy than we were at my, obviously we didn't have the stuff they had when I was that young, but that doesn't make the mind mature any faster. I mean, that's why I'm saying, if that's the case, then you got to try the kid as an adult. And I don't think you should ever try a 6-year-old as an adult, because he isn't really, it's hard to say. That's why go after the parent. I think they were saying that the gun was I want to say they said he had a brother or something that they might have. I thought I heard that yesterday, but who knows? That was really early on in the reporting or whatever. But what I'm saying is this, that I don't think that, technology makes kids any more mature. In fact, but I don't know if that's what you're saying. Maybe that's not what you're saying. They are exposed, but so we were all exposed to that stuff, just in different ways. I don't think that's really that new. The violence.
Actually, what ages children is the socioeconomic culture of a nation, and also just how developed the nation is. That's what influences the mind of a child, really. When we were younger, we were actually exposed to a lot of violent things, but they were violent in terms of adult things. Like, for instance, I remember going to see the Transformers movie, and Optimus Prime died. Now, if you kind of think of it, somewhere in there's like a 4-year-old looking at someone dying, being introduced to the concept of death. Now, it seems very harmless in an instance, but the concept of death and war and so on and so forth. Yeah, these were robots like shooting each other, but that movie was very violent. Like, they were like bleeding. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of stuff going on, but you didn't really think about it because it was robots.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. Also, you have to understand too that during the age when we were growing up, it was HIV, AIDS.
Yeah.
There were wars. There was the crack epidemic. America was extremely racist. There were lines drawn. It was clear who was who and who wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was a very violent area. It was understood
Right.
that you didn't go there, you didn't go there, and you didn't go there. So our children, in a lot of ways, they will never experience that.
How did we
They were-
survive? How do we survive, Iran?
Well, I asked myself that same thing the other day.
Barely.
Man, listen, little Julian went in there. The teacher said something. No, this is wrong, and he said, "Oh, word."
You shouldn't have been talking shit.
That's what baby Julian said. You're like, listen, I'm gonna pop a cap in your ass today.
So welcome, Glenn Lawrence. What's up? I want to respond to something No Saint said, because you're right. I wasn't saying they mature faster, but what happens to a child is that they do become desensitized, and you can corrupt a child, right? They don't become mature. Like, it's like he's not going to run off and do his taxes now on his own. But he looks at death like it's no big deal. As far as what we were exposed to, fuck yeah, we were exposed to, the Terminator and, alien movies and robots, and Disney kills off parents all the time. Bambi's mother was dead.
Yeah, like some serious shit. Like, Jen, if you kind of think about it, Jen, there weren't really like PG-13 movies like that when we were coming up.
No.
It's like maybe a PG movie or was rated R.
The difference
There was a lot of kids watching rated R movies.
Oh yeah, HBO. Yeah.
The difference now. Remember, I think back in my day, it was WHT, or it was like real. It was like white noise on the TV, and we were
you kind of got a silhouette. You kind of saw a little bit of something. You're like,
I was trying to catch that nipple, dude. I was always trying to catch that nipple.
I bet you we thought there were titties and there were actually male butt cheeks at one point. That looks like a titty.
I swear, not to get off subject, but I was trying to adjust that cable box to where it would get like almost a whole picture.
Hell yeah.
But if you think about it, though,
you compare
if you think about
to, I don't understand what this name is. Axgano. I'm not sure because you wrote it fancy. He says,
in like Russian.
Oh, okay. So yeah, but we were exposed to that in small doses. I agree with that. See, because back in the day, like it's like, yeah, we were exposed to like Transformers and Terminator, but today, like you can sexually assault and kill a hooker in a video game. It's a little different than us.
Yeah, it is. But you know what though? I have a theory. For us, it was different because it's different for them because they're experiencing these things on a TV screen. It's kind of like porn, a porn addiction. Like, people are addicted to porn, but you're not really having sex. You're just addicted to these images. So it kind of desensitizes you to the idea of what sexual intercourse. So when people are just engaging in death and so on and so forth, and the experience of it through a box, the human connection isn't there. For us, the way that we experience death, like We went to funerals. We went to wakes. Some of us actually saw someone get shot. You know
It's
what I mean?
the
Like, we
understanding
were
the
there.
value of life.
Exactly.
We have a different understanding and value of life because we were actually taught more about life and seen
Right.
more life than we actually knew of death. We knew of death, but
Right.
it wasn't in the sense of a game that entertained us
Right.
to a degree at times. And see, and people don't like to really make this connection, or they say this connection is irrelevant when it comes to video games and actual acts of violence. There is the process, because the military actually does this for special forces, is that they run simulators of these, you know, simulating 3D video games where these guys are going through a whole lot of shit, and the whole process is to desensitize them
Yeah.
to that war zone, wild
Yeah.
experience, so that when they do react, it just becomes second nature for them when they are actually in that scenario in real life. You know, it's a form of conditioning. And so we give our kids these, you know, devices that, you know, are feeding them information. They're intaking anything that you see and on a screen, you are taking in as some form of information, and how you mentally process it and, you know, regurgitate it or whatever, you know, develops over time. And to think that these things don't play a role in how these kids react these days.
Okay, I'm gonna
would be
push back on
stupid.
this.
Okay, go ahead. Push back.
Why is it, okay, why is this phenomenon mainly in the United States? Everybody's got video games, everybody's got violence around the world, got violent movies, the same movies we watch. Everybody's got the rap music in Europe and other places. Yet the United States is the one place, I mean, Canada doesn't have nearly the violence we have, and they're right over the border. So their kids are doing the same thing, and their kids aren't committing these acts of violence.
Yeah, but that's what we know of, right? Because we have Korea. Korea would sit there and be like a very disciplined country, right? We will say that these are very disciplined people, very nice, so on and so forth. And then I had to do some research on Korea because I was watching the show. They're in the high 70s to 80s% in domestic violence in the world. So
Okay, but that's I understand. That's one. Okay, you're
it's
taking.
about
I'm talking about as a
perception.
whole, though, as the whole world of the free world. I don't know what goes on in North Korea, and I don't know
That's
what
what I'm
goes on in
saying.
Here's the
China,
thing, though.
and I
That's
don't know
the
what goes
thing.
on
We
in
don't.
Tajikistan.
We
I'm
don't
talking
know.
Yeah, we
about
don't know.
like countries. Let's talk about Europe, Canada, United States,
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Saying any other country is not like America.
Australia.
A lot of these other countries that are still considered Western don't operate the way Americans do. Even in the UK, people are still very more active and do things outside, and, you know, are more interactive with real life with people than they are here in America. Everybody look the way we're
All right, so
communicating
you're
right
proving
now.
my point.
But
It's
no, I'm
not
not.
just video. It's not just video games. Then it's
But
a
what I'm-
whole bunch of other things,
But
and it's
here's
not
the
just
thing.
violent
You're not-
movies.
But you're not hearing these instances and shit happening over in fucking Australia. You're not hearing about these issues happening in the UK. You're hearing them predominantly happening here in America. So then you have to factor in, okay, what is different here? What factors contribute here that may not be contributing over
Other than
there?
access to guns everywhere, right?
Well, I don't think guns are a problem. I actually think everybody
Okay.
should-
No,
A
no.
6-year-old
Guns are a
had
problem.
access to a gun.
Guns don't
I
kill
think that's
people.
part of the problem.
Stupid people with guns kill people. Let's get that right. An
I don't
inanimate
know.
object, a dildo won't fuck you. You gotta use the dildo to fuck you. Okay,
I mean, Cain ain't shoot Abel.
that he killed him with a rock.
Are we going there, Cain and Abel? Are we going there?
Hey,
I mean,
And
but
let me
what the
tell you
point
that it would have been hard for that 6-year-old to kill that teacher with a rock. Okay.
it would have
Hey,
been,
all it
but
takes
at least she would have
David
been
and
in critical
Goliath.
condition.
David and Goliath. All you just need to be able to do one good swing and a hit, and that's all it
Not a
takes.
6-year-old.
So
Not a
you don't
6-year-old.
think,
Yeah.
let's ask the question though. So you don't think anybody can answer this, or everybody can. You don't think that the reason why we have so much gun violence in this country is because of how many guns are in this country?
Actually, no, I think that's the problem why we have gun issues in America is
did we see-
because
Go ahead.
because the reason is because we have such strict regulations upon them. Hear me out. Hear me out.
Huh?
Hear me out. This may
Tristan,
sound
where's
crazy.
you gotta have a video for that.
Here's this might sound crazy to you guys, right? But hear me out. If everybody had a concealed weapon permit and concealed a gun, right? And let's say we're all in the bank, right? And we're all strapped. We have our concealed guns. Some crazy motherfucker with an AK-47 named Haran runs in there and tries to rob the bitch, right? Well, if we all have guns and he only has one gun and we got like 10 of us and there's only one of him, he pulls out his gun, we got 10 guns on him. Where's
So
the
everyone
violence?
should be armed. What are you talking about here?
I'm saying that it taking away guns, it only stops law-abiding citizens from being able to protect themselves.
Okay,
Because
I understand what
I
you
get
criminals don't
that.
play by the
That's
law.
it.
Okay.
Totally
okay.
get that. I'm talking about. I totally get that. Right? We can't. I wouldn't give up my gun. Not in this country.
I wouldn't
Not
give
at
my
all.
gun for shit.
Not here. If I lived in Australia or the UK, perhaps,
No,
but
man.
not here. If you
I
don't have
wouldn't.
Not even if I live there.
you're a sitting duck in this country if you don't own a gun. That's just my opinion, right? But my question was, there are other countries that don't have guns floating around everywhere. They don't have the gun violence that we have. So isn't it obvious? I'm a gun enthusiast. I believe we should have guns in this country. But I'm just saying, isn't it obvious that other countries that don't allow the gun happy environment, isn't it obvious that's why they don't have as many mass shootings? That's why 6-year-olds aren't killing their teachers. Like,
Yeah, but they're doing it by other means, though. They're just because they don't have access to guns, don't mean they're not stabbing people. I mean, there was the subway stabber in the UK that was running down the subway gutting people. I mean,
yeah, Glenn, but you're
I'm
talking
just saying
about
that
600 mass shootings.
what I'm saying is if you are
In a year?
determined, I'm saying if you're determined to kill somebody, you know, the means is not, it doesn't matter. How you do it doesn't matter. Yeah, you could take away all the guns in one country, and if people are still going to be violent and act out violently and hurt people, they're just not going to be killing people with guns. They're going to be killing people
Here's
with
an idea.
chopsticks.
Here's an idea. Here's an idea. Here's a crazy idea. How about the reason why all of this is occurring is because people have no concept of fucking boundaries in America.
Well, look what atheists just said.
People are disrespectful. People are violent. Like you have these children. Do you see how these children are allowed to speak to these teachers?
Yeah,
The other
I was
day,
going to bring that.
One second. The other day, I saw a blurb saying that a student flipped out and beat the shit out of his teacher because she said that she called his parents to explain to them why he's failing in school. Okay, now there has to be a degree of comfort on his end in order for him in his mind to feel that, okay, I'm just going to react like this. And there's going to be no consequences. America has created this, and I blame a lot of the liberals. America has created this, this culture where people don't understand boundaries. People are just allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, say whatever the fuck they want, and they don't think about consequences. So they just grab guns, shoot people, or they just say crazy things to each other. They just have no concept of like, we shouldn't be doing this. There should be a degree of order. There's no order.
Well, there's no accountability.
Guns. Exactly. I'm pretty sure they own guns in China. They own guns in other areas, and so on and so forth. And people don't behave in that particular.
You think people own guns in China?
Well, not
so nobody owns a gun in China.
Well,
no one owns a gun in China.
Just the government, really,
The
just
army.
the government.
It's really the police and the government.
Really, just the government owns.
So you believe like no absolute person can
Well, I'm
illegally
pretty
get a
sure
gun in
some of
China.
the gangs
If it's
out
black
there,
market,
Chinese
maybe, but you're
gangs,
probably
maybe.
going to risk
That is
a
what I'm
long
talking about.
jail
Oh,
term.
yeah.
But you're
That is
risking
what
your
I'm
life.
talking about.
You're risking your
no,
life.
Oh
But here's
wow,
the
I'm pretty
thing,
sure the Chinese triad are really worried about that. But anyway,
every
you know
time
what I
when we
mean?
talk about guns and shit, and we always talk about we need more gun laws and we need more gun restrictions. We need to make getting access to guns tougher for these individuals. Yeah, all you're doing is making it tougher for law-abiding citizens because criminals don't give a fuck about the gun laws. When you talk about gun laws, cool.
All right.
Make more
We're
gun
talking about
laws.
two
I'm gonna
different
just keep
things,
on-
though.
I was about to say, let me
But he's 6. He's not a criminal.
Okay,
But
let
what
me
I'm
interject.
saying is,
Let me interject really quickly. We're having two different arguments.
Yes.
Which is fine, but we have to have one argument at a time. I know if someone wants to stop someone's clock, they will do it with a brush. I know that. That is a definite. If someone wants to stop your clock, they're gonna use whatever. I can use this pen, okay, and stop your clock. That I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it is obvious just from looking at the numbers when you look at other countries, and I am not for taking anyone's guns away, okay, at all. I like my guns, okay. So I'm not saying that, and I don't think that we should have gun laws in this country that makes it harder for law-abiding citizens to own guns. That would be the death of us too. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying, isn't it obvious in other countries that don't have 500 to 600 mass shootings a year that they're doing something better than we are? That does not mean I think our guns should be taken. That does not mean that I don't think guns don't kill people. People kill people. I get that. I'm just saying when you look at other countries and they're looking at us like, what the fuck is going on with y'all over there? Do you not see a difference? Something must be going on here.
well, yeah, there's a difference. And like I said, one aspect of it is the fact that the lack of accessibility to guns in those areas only increases the violence to be displayed in other forms or by other means. Like I said, the UK, and I think Atheist even confirmed it with his comment that the UK tends to have more knife crimes
Right.
committed by knives than we do here in America, right? Why? Well, because we have more access to guns. We don't have to use knives all the damn time. So that's part of the a factor when you have a excess or more access to these things. Those things tend to be used more in crimes or violent scenarios like this. Also, what plays a role is in how these other countries hold each other accountable. What is the structure, the foundation, as Haran was alluding to? In some other countries, there is a structure put in place within the community and the culture there that are not going to allow people to act out a certain way or get away with some bullshit, be bad behavior. And over here, for some reason in America, I would never be a fucking teacher. I would never be a teacher. I would be fired day one. Let some kid give me some lip, I will put him through the chair so quickly, be like, no, wouldn't happen. Would not happen. Timmy tells me to go fuck off the first day. That's it. What happened to Timmy? I don't know. He told me to go fuck off. He just ended up
Best
fucking
news I heard is he doesn't want to be a teacher.
I'll be Joe Clark like a motherfucker.
Seriously. But and the
No,
thing is,
do it expeditiously.
seriously, it's crazy because the way that it is that you can't even be a good teacher anymore. You can't even, hold a standard or hold, kids to an expectation. As soon as you start doing that and these kids don't meet it, and you're doing this hoping to encourage them, they tell their mom comes down pissed off Karen, don't be telling my kid, why are you making my kid's life harder, blah, 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 all this other type of bullshit, right? And it's like, yo, your kid's dumb. All right, I'm trying to help your kids get smart.
That's a Maria. That's not a Karen. That's a Maria.
Oh, that's a Maria? I
Yeah.
thought it was a Chati. Not a Chati? Was it Maria?
That's a Jen. No, listen, I'm all about discipline. I am all about discipline, but don't pick on my child.
Well, if your kid's
No,
the
that's
dumb
it.
kid in class,
But
we
Jen,
gotta pick on
you come from a
somebody.
different space. You come from a different space, Jen.
Right.
You're not coming from a space where you're enabling the child.
Correct.
A lot of these people are creating conditioning. They're conditioning children to be enabled. Now here's
Yes.
the problem. Here's the problem. That child goes through middle school being enabled. They go through high school being enabled, and they leave high school, if assuming that they don't go to college, and they go out into the world and they've experienced over a decade of being enabled, and they can't function in regular society.
Yep, that's
They have
exactly the problem.
no concept of responsibility.
So do you
No
think it's a,
concept.
do you think it's a do you think it's a I think it's a combination.
Oh yeah,
The social media, the access to guns, the video games, the desensitizing children by age 5, 6, 7. They're already seeing people get, murdered on video games and films. It's like nothing to us. Like, we went to another country, we'd probably find them boring or lame, because it's like, I can scroll Facebook and see someone be beheaded in Mexico. I can go on Twitter and see. I was shocked the other day. Haran, was I not shocked the other day? I don't go on Twitter. I went on Twitter the other day because people were like, oh, you should go on Twitter more. I mean, rows and rows and rows of graphic porn without warning, with no.
what kind of Twitter? What Twitter are you guys on? Because all I get is news and political shit, and every once in a while a funny GIF.
No, I went on it and I was like, what? And then Haran told me, oh yeah, that's Twitter. You could show porn on Twitter. I was like, what?
Is there a parental setting on Twitter that I have on that I might know about? Because I don't get any of that shit.
Nah, you gotta understand, Glenn. That's where the OF girls, you know what I mean? That's their HQ. That's how they found business. The
Oh,
OF girls, man.
I mean, graphic. Like, it's not like suggestive. It's not
like the whole thing going on.
Yeah, it's bad. It's graphic. And I was like, holy fuck. And Haran was like, oh yeah, that Twitter, you could do that on Twitter. I said, so you could be fully butt-ass naked, ass cracked on Twitter. And he was like,
You know what? It's really crazy that you say that, Jen, because now I'm thinking to myself just how desensitized I am now, because I'm just on Twitter like,
Because you're just used to seeing titties.
Yeah, just like I'm just sitting there like, oh snap, Boris. Oh wow, that's crazy with Batman. Oh shit, that's a dick. Anyway, you know what I mean? And then
and I didn't know. I was shocked because I thought that Twitter, I was under the impression that Twitter was just like Facebook and Instagram. They pull you over.
It used to be.
Listen, again, I'm going to bring this up again. And I don't know, Glenn, I know you were in the military. Haran, I don't think you were, right? I don't think you were.
I was not in the military.
So over in Germany or in Spain, you flip on the TV and there's boobs on there on the commercials.
Well, yeah, because
we're in a different culture. We're in a very prudish culture here.
We have very prudish roots in our culture. The way that we approach sex and sexuality is completely different than other cultures.
Yeah, yeah.
Other cultures are more liberal.
Wait a minute.
Now, that sex is different now.
Is it
nudity? Yes.
Sex?
No. In Germany, they will have and this was like 20 years ago. On TV, you'd have a commercial want you to call this thing, and you would see people like sitting there like an old lady, like doing all this on, a bunch of, it was sex. It wasn't just like boobs.
I've seen a lot of that in Ramstein. When I was stationed at Ramstein, I saw a lot of that shit.
Chick 9.
Hey, Ramstein was lit. Let me tell you something. I had a great time in Ramstein. Let me just say that. It was
that group. I know, Glenn, you were saying you'd never be a teacher. I wouldn't either, especially in the inner city. I don't have the patience. But isn't it a combination of like the prerequisites, the standards, the qualifications to even have these jobs anymore are lowered to the floor? Okay, now they take you with a GED. They so desperate. We got Instagram models with their asses out like this and their titties out talking about, I should be able to teach your child. There's nothing wrong with me, right? Leaning over your kids, leaving you.
I'm like, unless you're teaching them how to suck dick or slide down a pole, you really ain't got not much to teach them. You know.
To that point though, Jen, they're doing the same thing with cops now.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing when it comes to education. What are we seeing as a demographic wise? Who are taking more of the teacher jobs? What sex is not involved in teaching anymore as much as it once was? Exactly.
Man.
That's been hundreds of years with these female teachers. What? Don't do that. You cannot make this a gender thing.
I'm not trying to make it a gender thing. I'm not trying to make it a gender thing, but I'm pointing out something here that's kind of interesting, that typically, okay, men tend to stick by a standard or expectation. Men are the ones that put these rules that are considered toxic for having expectations now, right? So as we removing these toxic standards and expectations for people, you know, and diluting the standards, right? Because we're worried about Timmy feeling, you know, sad that he's getting left behind and, you know, he's getting left back a grade. No, we can't let that shit happen anymore. We got to water down the standards, right? What do we expect to happen? What do we expect to have?
We really need to start leaving kids back now, because
Hell yeah.
the fact that we can't leave kids back now. No, listen. The fact that we can't leave kids back now, they grow up into adults who you can't even have a decent conversation with.
No, I
Because
get what you're saying.
They have no ability to process anything.
I get what you're saying. But what I'm saying
You know
is,
what I mean?
don't you remember, like, even back in our day, like, they had social promotion when a kid would fail too many grades. They just
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you right now.
bring him up to the grades because he's
I will
too
tell you
old.
right now, I probably graduated high school because of Bill Clinton making that law called No Child Left Behind.
Oh,
Because
that
you
was
know
George
what?
Bush.
No,
George
it was
Bush.
Clinton.
That was Bush.
Which one? Was it senior?
No
or
child,
junior?
no child, no.
It was junior. It was junior.
What
It
was the one that
junior.
Bill Clinton signed in then? Was he the one?
Oh, it was the one that put our people in jail, sir. That's another conversation entirely. You're on the wrong
Oh,
discriminatory.
wrong
That was
president.
called
Wrong
no
president.
criminal. That was called.
Well, here, Glenn,
You're,
Glenn
you're
does have
talking
Glenn.
about the wrong unfair situation, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
No, well, Glenn does have a point, right? There was a story I read, and I don't know who I shared it with, but there was a kid who thought he was graduating, right? Guess his GPA. Just guess it.
3.
0.0.
0.13.
Oh, so he was me. Okay, cool.
No. Like, he failed every class, right? And everybody's looking at the school like, y'all failed this kid, and they're like, no, we told the mother. We told the mother. The mother had like crazy amount of kids. Like, she had, I think, over 7 kids by herself, so on and so forth. And the kid got lost in the sauce. So Glenn has a point, but at the end of the day, it's, you can't blame the school when the school job is, hey, you're paying me to teach your son this, but you have to do the reinforcement at home.
What school has become a daycare center. Okay, look, just send your kid here for 6 to 8 hours. We're gonna let them be out of your hair while you go to work. All right, we're gonna teach them about colors now, and we're gonna teach them that they can be whatever gender they want. All right, and we're not gonna really do math. We're gonna make these weird ass new math problems that don't make sense and shit. You know, you had 4 quarters and you had 3 oranges. How many bananas did you have? You know, like, you know, and we call that math. You know, you're wrong. The answer was 6. Okay, you know, like that's the type of education.
That Common Core shit is literally the worst thing that
it really is. Like the approach to education is so bad now. I'm not surprised we don't have these more dumb people. I mean, really think about it.
Listen, I don't know, and I don't even know if they're doing the Common Core anymore or not. I can't even.
It's so common. It's just core now. Okay. It's just
remember when it came. I remember when my kids were going through it. And listen, I want to get back to the gun stuff, and I don't want to get too far off that track. But I remember the whole thing was that so you can figure out it's more like an outside the box thinking rather than always just memorizing formulas or memorizing like 2 + 2 is 4. There's more than one angle to get to that number is kind of what they wanted you to think more. What's that? I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but basically it wasn't just like, you know, when I was growing up, we memorized times tables or whatever. They didn't just want it to be memorization. So I don't know if it worked or not. I'm not for it. I mean, we'll see. My kid's doing great. My oldest is doing great. So he's going to college, and he started off on that. Common Core stuff.
But what Tristan said is also really true. You know, parents are really not involved in their kids' lives as much as they should be anymore, because they're working too much to try to make ends meet, or you know, parents tend to expect. Here's a bad thing. They have a false expectation that, you know what, their job is not to educate the kids. That's what the teachers are paid to do. So why do I have to do this shit? And parents don't think that their role is to be an educator as well as a mother and an art teacher or a mechanic coach, teach your kid how to change oil. Your job as a parent is to be a teacher overall.
Yeah.
You're teaching them life shit in other areas. So to think that your role is to not help with their education is kind of stupid, but that's where parents are these days. I mean,
Do you
I've seen
think it's a perfect storm though? Do you think it's a perfect
Oh
storm in
yeah.
the country specifically? Like the teachers are younger now, right? The parents aren't, they're busy, they're not paying attention. Those parents that do work, because there's some parents that are just like, good, go to school for 8 hours. You be off of my ass for 8 hours. Then you have that. Then you have the access to guns in this country. I mean, listen, it's a miracle that a child could go through school in an inner city specifically and survive that shit with half an education, because they don't really teach you shit for life. They're not teaching you taxes and
No.
contracts and
But that's the thing with the education. When people say that with the whole taxes, like I get it, like it's something that we need, but I was an athlete. My ass was worried about the game. I don't care about them taxes. I don't care about them contracts. Like to me, it's like, yes, I understand it, but but the resources for that is very small. To have a taxes teacher, I said no school's gonna waste that kind of resources
What are
on,
you talking about? That's
especially.
called econ. What happened
do
to
you-
econ class? Because that's what we learned in econ class. On economics class, that was like a
Yeah,
mandatory.
I liked economics, but
You're gonna take whatever the school. If the school just offers you a band in sports, you have no choice, right? You're gonna gravitate towards one of those two. But today, I mean, what sports do you use, Tristan? That's my point. That had they
Well,
taught you taxes, that's something that
but
you need. You
yeah,
Well,
need.
that's true. But
There
that's
is-
true. But
wait a minute,
when's the
both
last
are
time a
needed.
home economics class brought in money compared to a hometown rivalry football game?
Okay,
I said the money matters in this concept. I said you
sports
have to have the money to spend to spread that, and they don't.
No, I don't mean
Unless
like what the school uses to make money in their town. I mean you as an individual.
it teaches you things.
It
It
teaches a
teaches
lot
you
of things.
teamwork. It teaches you camaraderie. It teaches you a lot of things. Sports does.
There was a study done several years ago that showed that kids that didn't play sports and kids that played sports, the kids that didn't play sports were when they became adults didn't or had a harder problem integrating in work environments that they had to collaborate and work with other people. They struggled with that camaraderie and being able to work with other people because they didn't socialize having to work with other people like you have to work with other people on the team in football or a baseball or whatever sport you're playing. You're learning how to work with different people from different personalities and backgrounds
Achieve a goal.
to achieve a goal. When you don't have kids that are in that environment and are not experiencing that through sports, they don't learn those traits as well as they would if they were exposed to it. So no, there's a lot of value to gain from physical education and sports. The problem that we have in our education system is because Japan's education system is fire. What they got going on over there is fucking legit. I don't know why we haven't jumped on that bandwagon.
Amazing.
Because they test their kids starting early, and then based off of the way that the kids score on the tests, it kind of determines the route of education they end up going down. If kids score high in I don't know, problem solving and whatever in math or whatever, they tend to gear their education towards more those industry and those career fields that really come naturally for them. And out here we do these standardized testing just to make sure that we're all kind of dumb equally. We all are equally dumb. Like, hey, we don't have any super smart people over here. We want to make sure the status quo of dumbness is all there. we don't really. If we were really going to change education, education should be based on what these kids need to know in order to graduate high school and become a productive person right out of high school. Okay, we
Now
don't
listen,
have any job training
But-
courses in high school.
listen to
But-
what you're saying right there, Glenn. Let me just say one thing. To play off of what Glenn just said, one thing that we hate in America, you know what we hate? We hate
Work.
experts. We hate experts. We don't respect experts. We don't respect doctors. We don't respect lawyers. We don't respect scientists. We don't respect. You don't respect mechanics. You don't respect this. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because why? Because you have the internet, and you saw on the internet that they told you if you know what I mean, if you have a pink mole, then you're going to have heart palpitations, and then your ear is going to bleed. You know what I mean? They're telling their doctor this thing that you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. We don't respect education here. We don't respect intellect here.
We don't
We
respect
respect
facts.
we respect brute force. We respect might. And don't get it twisted. America is not a superpower because we are the smartest. It's because we have the biggest gun or a bigger gun than most people. The idea of attacking America, you know what I mean, leads to basically a bloodbath. So in many ways, you know what I mean, people in many ways are, you know, intimidated and frightened by the idea of getting involved in fisticuffs with America. So we are also, understand this and do the research on this. We are also a functionally illiterate society.
All
Yeah,
right,
we're
I
dumb
gotta-
as hell.
I gotta-
We are dumb as hell.
Okay. So let's. As you're right. Our schools, as far as like high schools, are have a lot to be desired. However, we do have the best universities in the world, and
Compared
the
to what?
Wait, compared to the rest of the world, we have the best
Well, I mean,
universities. Wait.
really?
So he's actually proven you're proving his point by saying people don't respect the intellect in this country.
I'm
Um,
saying maybe historically, college
No,
wise, before
Today, even now, China's close. China's catching us. But what I'm saying is this: the reason the military has that might is because we have a lot of really intelligent people that stay on top of it. Not just that, we import a lot of intelligent people
Mhm.
to keep us abreast. So yeah, as a whole, we're probably not the smartest society, but at the top, due to money and due to superior institutions and technological advances, that's why it is education.
Can I throw
It is a
something
lot
out
of
there?
people.
Let me throw this out there and
Real
let me kinda
quick,
get your
and
guys'
we
opinion.
real quick before you go, and I totally agree that we import the Germans, as bad as they were in World War II, were so far advanced than everybody else. We got that technology that our country and a few other countries can send rockets to other countries, missiles, and there are still countries that can't do it, that haven't figured out how to do it. And
North Korea.
I mean, they're almost there, but I'm saying there are a lot of countries that still can't do it. They're still shooting back stuff that, I mean, that's how far advanced that some of our stuff is.
Let me ask you guys this, and I call it the age of emotionalism. I think we are in the age of emotionalism because Haran made a point that we don't respect experts, right? And I that kind of stimulated this idea of, well, it's because probably we live in the age of emotionalism where we don't really hold value to what is considered a fact more than what we consider how we feel. Okay, well, we don't want the fact that our son is stupid and is failing, it doesn't bother us, but the fact that you telling us that and makes us feel bad, and you're now shaming my kid, so what now make my kid feel like he's a dummy. I'm more concerned about how you made him feel than the actual fact that my son is not educated. Okay, do you see how that is? Like, we kind of live in this society where we're more concerned on the feeling of how things make people feel rather than the truth or the facts of things. Why won't we listen to the doctor when he tells us that, if you don't lose weight, you're gonna, develop some bad health diseases? No, you're just fat shaming me, doctor. How dare now you're making me feel insecure in my own skin. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? We live in this era where we put so much on the feelings or how things may make someone feel or how it may impact them emotionally, that we really don't factor that in as like not as important as in what is really true and what is factual.
But
I
then,
blame our generation.
Play here?
Glenn, then we're all participants. I mean, men especially. Sorry, I gotta say, men especially, because men don't want to hear she just wasn't attracted to you anymore. Men don't want to hear she got tired of you, she's getting divorced. Men don't want to hear that they're the problem. They're all online, on TV, on social media, crying about women not wanting them. Then we're all participating. Because nobody more than men. I said it the other day. I can't even remember the last time I had a beef with a woman online. I can't even remember. It is always men with their little underoos in a bunch coming on my post, okay, crying, bitching, and moaning about what I'm saying or what I'm doing. Women don't do that. If women disagree with me, they keep on, they push on with their damn lives. But I've never seen more emotion coming from men than we are now. So if we're in the age of emotionalism, who's at fault? You guys lead. I'm sorry.
Okay, you know I can't even deal with that with you right here because I'm at the push back real quick. Okay, here we go on that. And I don't even want to segue into this because we're talking about education here. But when I talk
about a 6-year-old who shot a teacher,
Yeah, we're way off base.
Okay, well, we were talking about education a minute ago. But what I was trying to get at is that, like, yes, men have become, again, we have failed raising boys to become men for the last 3 to 4 generations. That's been a societal failure at hand here in America. Okay, the reason why the Russians are fucking big ass motherfuckers that they have no problem is because they don't raise pussy ass boys over there. They're like, look, Jacques, you go over there and you go there and you fight to the death over that Kit Kat bar. Okay, like, you know, they don't take no bullshit like we do out here. Over here, we're like, well, how does it make you feel? Well, I don't really feel like doing this. You know, like we do all that.
What is the tea? The girls are fighting. No.
But so that does play a huge role, you know, in how we, you know, interact and how we raise our kids. You know, basically our cultural issues tend to be more affecting our kids even more on the regular basis than we want to give them credit to. And it's not just men failing, it's women failing. It's, you know what? America
let them have it.
Failing. America is failing.
So let me say this. Just push back a little. I'm gonna push back a little bit. I think men, right? And then we'll get back to the 6-year-old because I want to ask the question, should the parents be charged, right? But I have to say this, men complain about not being able to be toxic, right? I'm just using the word toxic for lack of a better word, right? Men want to be men and they complain that women are saying that's toxic masculinity and we don't like it. So how is it that in the same breath you can fight for, hey, let us be men, let us throw tires around and come out with beards and tell women they're fat? And how can you do that and simultaneously be a bunch of emotional bitches? Those are two different things.
I think you're talking about two different men too at the same time.
Can I say something?
Hi, Annalicia. How are you?
They're waiting for
Good.
you.
How are you?
It's about to go down.
No, it's not. Stop. Glenn, it's very interesting listening to you. In a bad way.
I know.
So,
I know you hate me. It's okay.
Hate is a strong word. I'll give you. I'll
He's got to care about you to hate you.
That's the caveat. So what's interesting to me is when you say, you know, this generation, this era, one of the problems is emotionality or hyper emotionality. Is that your thing? That's what you think?
I think we don't have a balance. We went from one extreme to the other. The pendulum went way over here and over here. It has never hit center and stayed in center. So I think we are going from one extreme to the other on it. And I don't think that's ever a good approach on any side.
But you're talking about men, right?
What do you mean? talking about. I didn't just talk about just men.
So here's the thing. What the psychology says, because this is sort of this is antithetical to your whole existence, right? But what the science, what the psychology says, it says that being open, being emotionally attuned, that's healthy. Being able to communicate, being able to emote, these people, men and women, have better qualities of life. Period. See, that's
yes, but men and women emote differently.
Hold on. That is a fact. That's a fact of life in any country that you're in, right? Culturally, there will be deviations, but as humans, our needs are fundamentally more or less the same. And at the core of a human is emotionality. So I would say these school shooters, these are the emotionally dysfunctional men who probably listen to messages like you because they don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to communicate. So they shoot up a school or they shoot a teacher. That's the reality. They don't get help in therapy because they come to you and you say therapy's for pussies. They don't get help with their
who says therapy's for pussies?
Not you, like, sorry, your archetype. You know what I mean? The fuck off in the bisexual lighting in the background there. You know the type of. I'm talking about the alpha male, right? The alpha male says.
Alpha male is a container word. I mean, let's be real. That's just a container.
I'm using that word, and I'm using it aptly, and I'm not done. The alpha male says therapy's for pussies. You don't open up to your girlfriend. You don't talk to your girlfriend. You don't say shit. So if men have a problem, men are also perpetuating that problem and simultaneously creating and kind of manufacturing these school shooters. I'm sorry, that 6-year-old probably one way or another, he would have picked up a gun. That's the reality, especially white men in America. Yeah, there's absolutely a problem, and people like you are contributing to the problem. If you want a happy medium, if you want to reestablish a healthier baseline, it starts with men, and it starts with their ability to actually communicate in a healthy way and be more attuned and in touch.
Who just now I gotta ask the question though. Here's the question: who determines who communicates better or well or not? Are we basing this off of a statistic or criteria based off of?
Absolutely. Hold on.
Hold on. Let me finish. I let you finish. Let me finish my thought here.
It is a statistic. Men struggle more in interpersonal relationships. They struggle more romantically. They struggle more in anything to do with interpersonality, emotionality. Men.
No, we just don't. We don't emote the same way as women do.
For a reason, men have the highest suicide rates, and
men and women are different. From
listen, Myron,
all across the board. I'm not trying to argue with you either, but you're just spouting off talking points.
Like, what the fuck? You're talking about men and women being different.
You're spouting off talking points again that you can't prove again. I'm just asking a simple question.
No, yeah, you are simple. You're maybe too simple. That's
sure. Excuse my simpleness and let me finish my thought.
Excuse it. I don't have time.
Okay, well then just. You're like your whole thing. Your issue is like it's all men. It's all men. It's all this, all that. That's the real problem.
I never said it's all men. You know what? I never said it's all men. But I said males like you, the alpha male, you make it work.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. Whatever you say. But what I'm trying to get at is like the problem is as what Jen was saying earlier. It is a perfect storm. There's elements from all sides that have
you are sitting on podcast saying what you're saying, right?
Let me finish talking, for Christ's sake. This is like a regular thing every time we come on. What I'm trying to get at is that men and women are different in every way. And
men and women are different. Men and women are different.
Men do emote. Men emote experience the same amount of emotions that,
I know
women feel, but the way that they express them and emote them are differently. Whether that's socially conditioned or whether that is something innate, naturally, that's what men tend to do.
But Glenn,
you're wrong.
Glenn, you just spent a lot of time talking about how we're in our feel, like we're letting men have feelings now. And
No,
you-
I'm saying the way
listen,
that we
my
we-
grandfather didn't know how to say "I love you" to my dad. My dad
when I
consequently
say-
didn't tell me he loved me. You know what I did? I changed that, and I'll tell
What
my
I
kids every day I
what
love them.
said is
There
when I
we
talk
go.
about emotionalism. When I
There we
talk
go.
about emotionalism, I'm saying we're taking less consideration into facts of things, what's being said, what is true, and we're more concerned about how whatever's being said makes us feel.
Substantiate that. Substantiate your nonsense. Where did you hear that? You said you're a fact checker. Well, how is that a fact? What do you mean? People
Easy.
are
I
more,
mean,
what do you
well,
mean?
if you-
Hold
oh
on,
my
hold on.
God.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that on average, do you think that an obese person going to see a doctor and a doctor says, hey, this is what you, and remember, doctors are not dietitians, so they're not always specialists. But if they go to their family doctor and they're obviously overweight, you think that they're going to say to their doctor, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. That hurt. You think on average that's what's happening?
Yeah, I didn't agree with
On
that either.
average,
I
people who are
was
overweight
using
don't want to be overweight, and when they're told that they're
I was
overweight, they
using
know
that
that they're
as an
overweight.
extreme example to
That's the thing with all of you alpha males. Everything's extreme. We live in the
actually
real world.
no. The only thing
real world,
extreme is your
things
octave
happen
level right
in
now.
averages in the real world. In the real world, what's more likely to happen and what's more probable to happen, not the extremes. On average, obese people go to the doctor and they're not in their fifis. They don't say to their doctor, you don't know what you're talking about. You're hurting my feelings. That's not what that happens in your mind, and it has to because you're
No, actually, it does happen in real life too. I mean,
right.
I
And
don't,
do you know what an average is?
yeah, I said I know what average is. I didn't say
Right,
it
okay,
happens
so
on
right.
average,
So,
did I?
Right, and predominantly
Did I
that
say it
does not
happens on
happen.
average?
Only,
No.
it's only alpha males who have to bring things to extremes to make a point. Live in the real world.
No, I
the real
do
world.
not realize that
People
the
who
extreme
struggle with
provides an
obesity
example for people to kind of comprehend and understand.
I'm done with you.
Good, please be done because I can
Good.
start now.
Good.
What
But
I'm
you
getting at.
never started. You're not smart enough to start. First of all.
Okay, you're the one that's smart,
I'm
right?
smarter than you,
No, I highly doubt it.
and that is a fact. That is
According to who? Can you
that's
prove
a
that fact?
for you.
Can we get that fact check?
That's a fact
Can
for
we
you.
get a fact check on that, please? Can
That's
you
a
provide that
fact for you.
statistics and
Well,
evidence on that,
How
one, please?
many degrees do you? That's a fact for you, sir.
Can we get that
You're
statistics
very
done?
dumb slow, and you don't even have his charisma and his compassion.
Okay, I don't need to be anybody else. I'm me. So
Good luck with that.
I'm doing great with it.
Yeah,
It's
good
working
luck
for
with
me.
that. We can move on.
It
We can
really
move on.
works for
Alpha
me.
male, let's
So
move
can
on.
we, Glenn, can you give examples? You said that men and women emote differently. Can you
Yes.
give an example?
Yes. Okay. When I say that men and women emote differently, okay, when men don't necessarily cry, and it's not because like they don't want to cry, okay, they do cry, but when you know what I'm saying, like when people like, oh, when he's upset, okay, for instance, when I lost one of my closest pets this past summer. I had my English bulldog, Mr. Banks, and he died over heat stroke. And I go in the backyard and I find him dead, and it just crushed me, right? Did I cry? Yes, I cried. Did I cry, in that moment? No, I had to figure this out. I had to, do the things I needed to do to make sure that his, got to the vet, all that shit got taken care of. When it originally happened and I came across it, I did not emote. I did not cry. I handled business, took care of it. After I got everything done, I cried. I had the time to, after taking care of things, to let it out, cry, and
You don't think women do that?
and oh my God, are you gonna let me fucking finish my
No,
point?
you said that you're talking about differences, right? I'm asking.
I'm saying what I'm
Because what you're describing essentially is that
Can we just
people-
let him finish?
It's just
Can we
the
just let him
process.
Then
finish?
let him finish
One-
because he didn't even get to how women emote. I wanted to hear it.
Okay, so when that I did let it, I got to express my emotions and I felt my emotions, and it was done in a time where I could do it. Now, contrast that to, and I'm using another example that I witnessed, like when my mom's bird died, okay? She had the waterworks, the tears, she could not contain herself. She couldn't even get a sentence out when she came across the dead bird, right? And, you know, we're trying to ask her what she wants us to do. How can we help? Blah, blah, blah. And she was just so in her emotions at the moment. And she couldn't, you know, even make basic decisions on the thing. And what I'm using this to say that, you know, guys, that's why guys, when they go overseas to war and they go to battle, they don't deal with the emotions there. They're not crying there while they're getting shot at. Why? Because they're driven to do one other thing right now. They got to do this. All right. They don't have time to be in their emotions and express their feelings. All right. Because typically that's how guys are trained. They're trained to react. They're naturally able to respond to issues before processing them emotionally. It's also been studied, here we go. And if you want these statistics, is that men and women process information on average differently. Men process information. We all process information through 3 ways. Okay. But the way that men and women do it they're not the same way. Okay. Men process information through logic, reason, and then emotion. Emotion tends to be the last filter of that information that's being received goes through. Women on average, the statistics prove that women on average process information through emotion, reason, then logic. So it would be based off of these results, you could see that women tend to react more emotionally when things happen at first, right? Because that's the first filter information tends to get processed, right? That's why you see women struggle less with PTSD than men do, for one, because men tend to process that way later compared to when women process it. All right. So the way that men and women absorb information and they process information is different. Doesn't mean that you don't express the emotions. It's that the way that by the time the information gets to that emotional part, the emotion is expressed differently.
So I would agree with that. I started out that way, like the regular way women emote, but then after you go through a lot of shit, then I flip to the other side where it's like, okay, let's solve this first and then deal with it emotionally. But I do think that it's a male trait. I do think it's a male trait where it's like, what's the problem? Let's fix the problem. While the women are emotional about it, like, no, this is not good. And the guys will be like, I'll fix it. What's the problem? So I do get that. I've even seen.
But Jen, is that socially constructed, or is that biological, or do you think it's socially constructed in the same way that it's acceptable for women? It's acceptable for men to use anger as sort of a baseline of emotion, or the only emotion, and that's okay. Whereas for women, it's socially acceptable for them to be, quote, histrionic. And obviously that's used pejoratively because, again, men think that women are just these hyper emotional creatures who don't know how to manage their emotions. How much is that?
Who said that?
Constructed?
I think both. I think both. I think both things can be true, but I think that's been debunked. Like men not being emotional has been debunked since they started with social media. That's out the window. That's been.
And I will say, I want to add that I definitely think that the fix it is a biological thing, but what like Jen is saying, emotions. Yeah, I think that some of that is socialization because I never had a problem growing up crying. Lately, I've not cried as much as, but it was never an embarrassment to me. I mean, I've cried in restaurants in front of people, it's not a big deal and it feels better after you do it. But I will say to Glenn's point, and I don't have the source on me, so, it's been a while, but I have read that I believe women do have, I don't know if it's bigger tear ducts than men, but they more easily produce tears than men. That is, I mean, I've read that. Like there's something scientific to that.
Yeah, I read something about that too. I read that about a couple of years ago too. The tear ducts are different.
But what I want to say about this thing is we got to stop shaming people for men for being God, I don't have her name in front of me. I can never remember her name, but Annalicia, is that what it is?
Annalicia.
Annalicia. So that we got to stop shaming men for having emotions, because that stuff gets pent up, and then people don't know how to handle it, and it comes out in violence, and it comes out, as she was saying, these people going into a school and shooting people up because, you know, they weren't allowed to show their emotions, or they were, you know, if they did show emotions, they were called weak and picked on. I mean, that's a societal problem.
But isn't
I-
that what I'm saying? But then Glenn would say, stop talking about shaming people, man up.
Right, but that's the problem, right? And that's what I was saying, because him saying that we're overly emotional, when you have these these degenerate podcasters and these degenerate people online who've amassed millions of viewership, or millions of viewers and hundreds of thousands of subscribers, who also subscribe to and adhere to that same counterintuitive way of being, existing, and living in the world. That way of men shouldn't express themselves. Keep your shit to yourself. Don't communicate with your girl. Don't, like, all of these things are absolutely a part of the zeitgeist. So for you to say that, oh no, the problem is over hyper emotionality, when really the culture and everything else is saying that that men are getting even further away from that, I would say, in my estimation, than before. I think men are like devolving in a lot of ways. I think there was like a curve where you guys were on the right track, and then, I mean, the Dusty Manosphere took over, and now people buy into it, and like, it's so lucrative, and because there are, like, or I guess some people think there are degrees of truth. Like, for example, say good morning to your mom in the morning, like shit like that, like really simple shit like that. People say, hey, that's true, so everything else must be true, but it's not true. And I'm talking about like the Myrons, all of these dusty niggas in the manosphere, all of them, like that. I think that men are devolving. I think that those podcasts and like part of the culture is contributing to that devolution. And that toxic way of thinking that, you know, men have to just, what's the problem, fix the problem. And as a matter of fact, I know a lot of women, I was raised with them, who were like that. They were women also process grief differently. Sometimes there's delayed reactions. I know a lot of women who are not like, who don't just cry when something happens. They understand cognitively that, oh, my dog died, I'm sad. But there could be a delayed reaction. A lot of people are like that, where 3 months down the line, they kind of have a breakdown. But again, I don't know if it's a gender thing, but I know a lot of women who are like problem solvers, and who tend to deal with things emotionally in a sort of delayed manner.
I'd just like to say something. You know, to each his own. You know, you all have your perspectives on this issue. Just doesn't. I just don't feel like this is an important thing to discuss personally. From my perspective, you know, I've always felt like, ever since I was a kid, the first time I'm presented with a problem, I don't immediately choose emotion. I choose logic. How are we going to fix this problem? You know, now there are moments in time in my life where, yeah, I've gotten emotional, but it's not efficient for me. It's efficient for me is to handle the problem, fix the issue, and move forward. Like a lot of the things that I see online, like, you know, guys getting in women's business, arguing with women, debating with women. It's a senseless practice. I don't owe you an explanation for anything. I'm an individual. I'm a man. This is how I'm moving. This is where I'm going, and this is my decision. I don't owe anyone an explanation. You know what I mean? Just like you don't owe me an explanation for how you live your life and how you move in whatever context you choose to move in. Now, you know, Glenn, there's certain aspects in what he's saying that I do agree with. You know, I'm not necessarily comfortable with sitting around and, you know, and I'm in the middle of a Starbucks and I'm seeing a man just break down and crying in front of me. You know what I mean? That'll be a little weird and awkward to look at.
But see, that's your
You know,
problem.
That
That's
is
not
your
the
problem.
guy's crying's problem.
No, it's not my problem.
And you should probably
You just said it was. You don't feel comfortable. You don't feel
Excuse me,
comfortable.
excuse
That's
me.
your
Wait 1
problem.
second.
But
Wait 1
but you should
second.
also
Wait
try to
1
figure out why
second.
you
Wait
feel
1 second.
uncomfortable.
Wait 1 second. Thank you. Now now when I'm looking at that, I'm gonna be like, yeah. But I'm not gonna tell him, hey man, can you stop crying? It'll just be like, yeah. And I'm sitting there drinking the rest of my coffee. I'm minding my business. That's the beauty of it. You can mind your fucking business.
Yeah,
You
that's
can
true.
mind
I
your
don't thi-
fucking business, and that's half of the problem that a lot of people have. Mind your fucking business. You can shut the
Actually,
fuck
that's
up.
probably making the problem worse. Minding your business and ignoring things that are
No,
obviously
because if
problematic
something is not your
are
business,
part
it's
of the
not your
problem.
business.
You live in a
Everything
society
doesn't
with
have to be
people.
your
You live in a
business.
society with
No, it doesn't.
people, and people need people. What do you mean it's not your problem? If you want to live on
No,
an island
Not
somewhere,
his
you can
problem.
want to live on an
it's
island
not.
somewhere, you can do that.
I didn't say I'm going to live on
Why
an
are you talking
island.
about extremes? You just went extreme with it. Like
Mind
if
your
it's
mind your fucking business is not analogous to a person being completely individualized. What do you mean?
like if he doesn't want to deal with it, if it's not his problem, why does he need to get involved in something that he has nothing to do?
That's not what I'm saying. And if that's
Saying
what
like that's what he's saying. That's what he's
what
saying.
I'm
right,
saying.
but that's
That's
not what
exactly
I'm
what he's saying.
Alright.
And you're saying like, well, it's
Okay,
he
Alpha.
is the problem
Okay,
for that.
the point didn't go over your head. You're right. Okay.
I mean, like you don't it's like this. Like the reason again, the reason why, and I talked to Haran about this before. The reason why men have an issue with men seeing men cry, right, is because throughout history, you know, crying never worked in the guy's favor in, you know, the social, economical, intersexual, you know, exchange and things, right? What men saw is that the guys that tend to be more stoic and were able to hold things together tend to have more success overall, either in that situation and also with other, you know, with women.
That's not
Because
true in the real world, though.
that's actually really true in the real world.
No,
That's
no,
actually
but-
history. Why don't you open up a history
No,
book and look
no,
back at shit?
Right.
Come on.
But any psychopath can run a country. I'm talking about being emotional.
Whatever. Who are you talking about? Psycho? I mean, you talk about extremes. I'm talking about these are real historical shit that we could point to
No,
and
right,
look at and be like, look, they were this way and they succeeded with XYZ. Wow.
and that's XYZ is only one part of the alphabet. You still have ABC to deal with. You still have emotion, psychology. There are there are a lot of elements that make up a human being. It's not just about pragmatism. It's not just about getting the job done. It's not just about building things. We are human beings comprised of many different things, including those things. That's what I'm trying to say. What's so hard to understand, Forrest?
You know what's hilarious about all this?
But I
I
don't need to
feel
agree to that. I don't need
I
to
feel
agree to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
I don't need to agree to that. Seriously,
this
that's
is
not
gonna be
valid.
this is going to be hilarious because y'all
That's my
gonna be like
decision.
these Hebrew Israelites and talking about we was men back in the day, like 100 years ago. Like, let it go. Like it's
You
like
mean we was kings?
exactly. They be, no. They be like we was kings, but now they can be like we was men. That's what they gonna
Oh,
start saying now. Like I'm not understanding, right? I think it's okay to be a human being. If you see somebody crying, it's okay to be empathetic and say, "Hey, you all right?" I think that's okay. But Haran also has that right in this country to say, "Hey, yo, man, I'm gonna keep drinking my Hennessy. I hope you make it through."
and listen, and if that's
You know,
if that's what he's saying, I don't have a problem. Listen,
Yeah, I know. If that's what he's saying, I agree.
yeah, if I'm crying in a
Yeah.
restaurant, I'm not expecting Haran to come and say, "How you doing, buddy?" I'm in my moment. You know.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is I'm saying you need a society of people who are empathetic. This doesn't, and honestly, don't take it to an extreme. You don't have to go to the person and know their life story. And I wouldn't want anyone, conversely, to know my whole life story. But as a general matter, human beings do better when they're in a society that's built upon morals, values, and a part of those morals and values is compassion and being able to empathize with one another, being able to resonate with one another. These are things that make like emotionally, psychologically healthier societies. Like, we live in a society with people. We need each other. We're here together for a reason. Like, it wasn't one big bang. It's not an accident. So we have to learn how to sort of navigate these spaces. And I think, and the psychology thinks, that the best way is to get back to some of those more human traits: compassion, empathy, understanding, versus stoicism versus being stoic, whatever it's called. There's a time and a place, obviously, but men specifically have really not bastardized it, but they've really I don't know what the word is. They've kind of taken it a part of their human identity versus something that's more socially constructed. I do believe that it is more socially constructed than it is biologically innate. That's my belief.
Well, stoicism is conditioned at the end of the day, because everybody on this panel, when something goes wrong, are you guys not the first one people come to? Now, you can't sit there and it's like, let's cry together. You're like this. They're coming to you with a problem and they need a resolution. I said, Jen has that because that's why Jen is as tough as she is, because she was the auntie everybody went to with a problem. I said, Glenn is the guy that his kids, Haran's kids, when there's a problem, that's where they're going to. No saint kids are going to them. Stoicism, that's why what Glenn's point is about, I have to be logical first, because his condition is I'm always having to solve a problem. So yes, we should be more empathetic, but how can you be empathetic towards the source where that main source is the answer for most things? Just like with mothers, right? When something goes wrong in the house, the kid is always going to mom. I said the man is always going to mom, and mom has nobody else. Mom is like, wait, I'm having a mental breakdown. Who do I have? She has nobody.
And
So
that's the problem.
It's tough.
That's the problem. That like the lack of emotional equity, even in relationships, men not emotionally carrying any weight. That's a problem, and that contributes to divorces. Like, we can't act like it's not a problem. The fact that mom has to kind of be this like emotional pillar that everyone has to go to, that she's the only option, obviously it's gonna create burden on any human being, man or woman. So yeah, like spreading some of that like emotional equity or spreading it around would be optimal. And I agree with you, Tristan. But what I'm saying is, even when people do come to me, sometimes it's not hey, how do we solve the problem? Sometimes it's literally, I just need a shoulder. That's it. And that sometimes is enough to solve that particular problem.
Absolutely. I will agree with you with that. And I tell men all the time, when their woman comes to them and, she's unloading and venting to him, and he starts thinking that he has to problem solve, the first thing he should do is be like, hey, baby, do you want me to feel this or do you want me to fix this? Okay. Because although you may not agree, and you've said that before, but when men that are in relationships and their women come to them with a problem, men tend to want to find the solution to that problem for her. That's their first thought. Like, I got to fix this. I need to fix this problem right now because she is not having a good day because of this problem. And she's obviously coming to me with this problem. So I need to fix it. And that's not always the case that women want. Sometimes women just want the guy to, feel this issue, give her some empathy and understanding that, oh, that's a shitty situation. Damn, I'm sorry you went through that, rather than, well, if you did it this way and you, instead of doing this way, you would avoid the whole problem. No, that's not what they need all the time. And, so I tell guys, and I've said it for many years, like, look, ask them first. Hey, do you want me to feel this or fix this?
What do you tell guys when do you advocate for men to also go to? So what about the reverse? What's your advice there?
What do you mean? Reverse.
So when men are going through something, do you advocate that they should kind of go to their girlfriend and like she's a kind of a soft landing spot for
Depending
him.
on to me, it's depending on the problem.
What
Depending on
if he's
depending on the
struggling with a problem in his family? What if a family member died? What if he's struggling with depression? Like there's so like things like that.
if I mean, if somebody died in your family, you tell your lady like, hey, I'm kind of sad, I'm going through some depression because my brother died or my cousin died and we were real close. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't see any issue with that. I think that there's some certain problems that men may deal with that don't need, they're better off not going to their significant other to unload that on, and they're better off going to either a male mentor that they have in their life or someone else, and I'm not saying someone else as another woman, I'm just saying someone else that they look up to, that they might be able to get some guidance in that issue, because I
Can you
think
give me an example of what type of problem would what do you mean? What kind of problem would necessitate that?
whatever problem the guy feels or believes that it's better off being going to a someone else or a mentor for, rather than his woman. Like it to me, it's subjective. It depends on that individual and what they consider is okay to go to his girlfriend with or his wife with or not. What I'm saying? That's to me, that's their own personal opinion. So I mean, if I give an example, that'd be an example that I may see fit, but it may not be the same thing that Haran will see fit. So I'm not going to give like something that's a universal feeling or example.
And it doesn't have to be universal. I just want like just as an example, like why would it be optimal? The only instance like I'm thinking in my mind is if he was like having even then he should know. Yeah, so I don't know. I just wanted an example of when it would be more appropriate for him to go to a mentor or to kind of outsource versus talking to his wife. It doesn't have to be a universal one. I just wanted like something.
What if he just didn't want to speak to his wife?
Why?
Maybe he just doesn't want to. Maybe that's just his decision.
Well, I
You
would
can just you can. I don't have to say everything. I don't have to tell my wife everything.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
And
Just
and
like
I
my
think
wife
that's
doesn't have to tell me everything.
Okay.
and I think that's why we're running into the issues now is because, like I said earlier, there's somebody in the relationship that's always the apex of the problems, the problem solver. So Haran be like this. I'm not gonna tell my wife everything because it'll look like I have a problem, and if I am the main source that fixes everything, what can she do? I just think I think we just need to work on our communication skills.
No,
That's what it sounds like.
no. That's not it.
No,
Tristan.
well, I would
It
say
literally
that's what I'm
is.
saying. I'm saying that if you pick and choose, I think it's probably better if you communicate, husbands and wives communicate with each other. I don't think the degree of problem should be a variable. I think that the communication should always be there, and I think that when that breaks down or when you're like, I don't feel like I'm going to go to her, sometimes that can bite you in the ass.
Oh,
Why
absolutely.
do people have to tell each other everything?
But
Like,
I
why do
agree with
people
Haran
married
here.
have to tell each
No,
each other
I'm saying when there's a problem. I didn't say everything. I didn't I don't want to know how many
when
times.
there's a problem.
I
When
don't
there's
want
a
to know how many
problem.
times you took a shit at work. I'm saying when there is a problem, or if you're going through something or experiencing something.
Why do I have to always tell you? Why do I always have to talk to you about that?
Like, okay, I'll give an example.
Oh,
And
I'm
this
sorry,
is,
Haran. I thought you meant as a problem. You just meant in general. Like
Yeah,
you
I
don't have
don't
to say it.
always. I'm not saying I won't, but I'm saying I
I'll
don't
give an
always have to.
example. I'll give an
Okay.
example as and this is a very general example. Okay, let's say my girl did something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm just still kind of like trying to process it, and I don't want to go to her yet with it, and create a bigger problem than it really is. So before going to her, I'm like, you know what? Let me talk to Haran, make sure that I'm not off base here. So when I go to Haran, I'm like, yo, bro, man, my girl did this the other day,
That's not
and
even what you said earlier. That's completely different.
That's a problem. I'm
Wait,
having a problem. I'm using this as an example. You asked for an example. I'm providing an example. So here's this problem that I'm having. I'm not going to my girl with it right away because one, I'm trying to sort it out myself.
Right. So that's the difference. Initially there was no going back to the girlfriend. There was a problem and I'm outsourcing it and I'm not going to her.
But I
Now
may
you're
here
saying-
the thing is I may not even go back to her with it after talking to Haran. Haran could be like, you know what, bro, you're actually kind of off base here. You know, you should probably, look at it from this perspective. And after seeing it from his perspective, I go, oh, cool. I got it. Thanks, bro. And keep it pushing. Now I don't even have to go to her about it at all. So yeah, problem solved without having to involve her, which could create, not intentionally, but may create a mountain out of a molehill that could have been avoided altogether if I sought it, counsel through somebody else.
Okay. So I'd like to get back to the
kid?
6-year-old shooting.
So my question was, do you think the parents should be charged?
I think
Well,
parents are
100%.
responsible for their children. Absolutely.
Not everybody at once now. I think that obviously, if there's some fault, yeah. So I'm not sure. I heard, like I told you yesterday, I heard the weapon may have been a brother's. Either way, it's under that household. Yeah, if we're not going to, because this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which we didn't dive into. I didn't get to counter some of these points about if it's not guns, it's knives, because yes, like you said, you can run a car into a crowd of people, but the problem isn't, Glenn, you owning a gun. The problem is there's so many guns out there and people aren't responsible enough to not let a 6-year-old get a hold of one and he goes and shoots a teacher. So
Absolutely.
other countries
Absolutely.
don't have this problem because there's not more guns than people in these countries. There's less guns than people. And so, yes, I think that the parent should, as of a 6-year-old that goes and shoots somebody, it's going to fall on the parent, and the parent should have a price to pay. Absolutely. And we need to agree on that in this
Absolutely.
country.
I have no problem with that.
But we need to pass laws that let people know that that's going to happen. Because you know who's not going to shoot somebody, shoot their teacher? My kids. You know why? They don't have access to any guns. They have zero access to any guns. They will have to go to somebody else's house if they want to get a gun, and that's not going to happen either. So,
see, I think that if you have a gun in your house and you have it for safety, it is your responsibility to teach everybody in that household the true understanding of the weapon and the proper safety procedures of a weapon. Okay, just because yes, you may have it locked up, but for whatever reason they get access to it or they need to use it in a life or death situation, they need to be properly trained in how to protect themselves.
I'm okay. I agree with you there, but the problem, that's not what happened in this case. Obviously,
this gun is laying up. Part of the solution, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like kids.
But we need laws. We need laws.
We do need laws.
We need stronger gun laws, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about gun laws. It's not taking the gun out of anybody's hand.
Stronger consequences. Not necessarily gun.
Why are Americans so attached to their guns? Like, you guys don't see the correlation between your infatuation with, like, you can't take my gun. Like,
you need a history lesson? Because I could give you a couple history lessons real quick.
I will never take a history lesson.
Well, guess what? Here we go. We're going back to back in the day. Here we go. So the reason why the Second Amendment is so strong is because we didn't want, when we founded this nation, a government to impose its will on the people.
Right.
So therefore, we had the right to bear arms to stop tyranny from our governmental tyranny.
You think that there are other levels of tyranny that the government is imposing on you at a chemical
level? But at least we have our guns to stop them from physically forcing us in this tyranny.
Right, but really, that's kind of a false sense of, like, it's not really working. The government still has. Really, like you're absolutely.
You know what happened? Do you know what happened to Germany after they
Oh my God.
they disarmed them? What happened to
But
Germany?
we're not in
What happened, no,
1942.
what happened to yeah, we're not in 19 something whatever, but history repeats itself. You got to learn from the past, okay?
And
You don't
what are
learn from
guns
the future, you learn from the
American?
past.
If anything,
So-
they should be teaching you that you don't know what the hell you're doing with them unless you are governed by like.
What are you talking about?
What are Americans actually learning? What do you mean? You guys have like what are the highest crime rates?
What are you talking about? Like history
You said
repeats
that
itself.
history repeats itself, right?
Yes.
So okay.
So when a nation, when we saw a nation, we saw what happened.
People are not
when
even
you-
responsible within that nation. What
when
like
you see a government disarm its citizens, right?
no one.
And after the
No.
after
Why does stricter
why
government
don't you let me finish my thought? Because why you don't want to let me finish my thought? Because it's
Because
actually
I'm not
something
saying what
logical.
you're saying. We're saying tighter and stricter, more stringent gun laws doesn't necessarily equal you taking the gun out my hand.
No, because
what
you
we're
know some legislation that has been trying to go up has been to immediately
That's not what we're
disarm.
talking about, though.
Well,
when you
I'll
talk-
put it to you this way, Glenn. There
And
are
I
more
said- I
people.
said-
There are more people a year dying from gun violence than anything the government has done to us yet.
What?
We are sacrificing more. Like you're worried about a tyrant. First of all, they have drones. Okay, if they want to take you out, they'll take you out from, and you won't even know it's coming. They can easily. The government can easily take people out. They can easily, if that's what their aim is, and maybe one day they will. Who knows? But what I'm saying is, we have more people dying, more kids dying now in the last, let's just say, the last 50 years than the government has in the last 50 years. I'll put it like that.
I mean, I guess you could say that from the standpoint of gun violence, but I mean, the government, you know, let's just be honest, is not the most honest and forthright and you know, good government. The government has killed more people than you would like to know on the name of, you know, patriotism or some political push.
So Glenn, doesn't that prove No Saint's point that they gave us the right to bear arms so we could stop tyranny? But they are tyrannical.
Yeah,
they've done a lot of false shit to its citizens. The U.S. we know that they do a lot.
Yeah,
of
but again, the gun.
But Glenn, that's the point. Who gets to decide what's tyrannical and what's not? If the
let me explain. Let me explain. The guns are just another buffer to stop them. It's a buffer. It's like, okay, look, if you're gonna try to do this and go with this route, we still got these to try to slow you down.
You really think that the average citizen has this like political autonomy? That's like because they have a gun, or
no, I'm thinking that's what people that understand the Second Amendment. You know,
you don't think it's a false sense of security, though?
Yeah, it is.
I do think it. I mean, obviously, if the government really wanted to roll over on you, they're gonna do it. They have more guns than you do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's obvious. Nobody is saying that wouldn't be the overall outcome. But the process is going to be like, look, if this is what you're going to try to do, well, I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback here, and you're going to feel a little bit of it on the way there. You know, it's not going to be.
I mean, I agree with you that if it went down like that you'd definitely have guerrilla warfare type things going on. I mean, that, you know, and it's different from China, who they have no way, no weapons in the citizens' hands to have any kind of that kind of, you know, not that kind of access. But when you talk about the Second Amendment, people act like, first of all, people act like those people had a crystal ball and they knew what that meant like 250 years later. Like they would come back and say, yeah, this is what we wanted. we wanted all these people armed and all these mass shootings. This is how we wrote it. I don't think they had that vision.
I think the way that they wrote it in the spirit,
they weren't gods first.
No, they weren't gods. But I'm saying if you take it from the spirit of what the Constitution was saying, is that people need to be able to protect themselves from tyranny when they're trying to enforce or force them into something that is you know, unconstitutional, or they're trying to impose their will on, you know, people that is not in law or legal or whatever. You know,
you don't think that can be achieved even with more stringent gun laws? You don't think that law-abiding
Oh.
citizens will continue to be law-abiding citizens, whether they like? You don't like you think that if there are stricter laws around gun control, you think that takes that away?
I think the most people that tend to commit crimes with guns are criminals already. That's historically proven. So gun laws tend to only impact law-abiding citizens trying to acquire guns the correct way. Okay, you know, it's not the guy that has the gun in his house to protect his family that is committing the crimes. No, it's, you know, the gangbanger or whatever, the guy with the problem using guns in a means outside of self-defense and using it in order to impose.
Right, but he's
will.
also using it because people in his community are committing tyranny. He's also using it in the spirit of the amendment as well.
Well, the Second Amendment was technically for because what America just conquered the British Empire at that time.
No,
It's
they fought
basically-
against the British Empire.
Well, fought against, right?
Yeah.
So I said the wrong thing, but every state was considered to have its own militia just in case the U.S.
Yeah.
government were to actually flip its head against the states. So that's why the Second Amendment is going to be there so the states can protect themselves against the U.S. government. So that's basically what it is. So it's not going to go anywhere because our governments now, they're like, listen, people rolled up on January 6th. Listen, if they had some guns, people ain't rolling up in there on January 6th.
That's not why. That's not why. That's not why. I'm going to tell you right now why there will be no stricter gun laws. The NRA is a political funding machine.
Yep.
Mitt Romney got 13 million from them. Boom. End of story.
That's
Period.
true. That's why. But you're absolutely right. But the problem, but we're talking about, they've got everybody else, the people that are that they've got a bunch of people that they pump up with. And it's good red meat too for the politicians too. That along with the border and everything like that. They just throw those few things every 2 years, every 4 years, and everybody goes to the thing and votes, you know, one way or the other. But the reality is that, you know, a lot of people that are pro guns don't really want to do anything. And we're sitting here watching people in this country. It's not, I'm telling you, okay, knives. Okay, in England, there's knives. I'll take my chances with somebody with a knife walking into a classroom than I win with a gun. Because the chances are you got to get up close and personal with a knife. A gun, you can shoot from a distance.
Man, listen. That 6-year-old boy went up in there and said, listen, teacher, you've been talking shit. This is the new year, and you're gonna tell me you're gonna tell me 1 + 1 = 2 the whole time. Where did the A come from? We talking about algebra now?
No.
Listen, he was upset. He was like this. What is X? He's like, you throwing in letters? Hold up, I'm upset. Pow.
She tried to throw that core teaching that
Common Core at him.
Common Core on. He's like, no.
So they're not going to take our guns. That's a shoe, and it's a moneymaker, obviously. But what do you
Now,
think?
should there be gun reform? Absolutely. I definitely think there should be gun reform
But
laws.
what does that look like, Glenn?
Well, I definitely think, you know, background checks, you know, making the background checks more extensive is one way to do it. I definitely think that anybody that files for, you know, want a gun, they should go through a psychological evaluation, not just do this like, you know, 3-day period where that, you know, you can pick up your gun in 3 days, you know, type of thing. Although that may have helped at some point, but I don't think that really is a solution. So I definitely think, you know, if you want to, you know, go purchase the gun, the first step is to get psychologically evaluated, you know, make sure that you are in the right mind to, you know, to be able to be responsible with the gun. Also, I don't think that, you know, anybody should be able to just walk in and buy a gun without going through some accredited gun safety course and have to complete and pass that course first, you know, before you could actually, you know, be able to purchase a gun. You know, so I think there's things that we could implement, you know, when it comes to it. And also, like what No Saint said, yeah, definitely, if, you know, parents, if your children get a hold of your firearm, and use your firearm to commit a crime, well, you are legally responsible for your child until they reach the age of an adult, right? So if your kid goes up in school and shoots up the school and with your weapon, well, guess what? You serving time too.
I like that. I like that.
You know, that puts the responsibility back on the
That's not
parents to
true.
be
This is
involved in their kids' lives.
This comment is bullshit. Y'all know criminals don't go to the gun shop to get them. Yes, the fuck they do. Okay, the mass shooters they roll right up in to the gun shop and get them AKs and shit. Many of them have done it.
Actually, can you put that question up again, or this comment? Because the second part, yes, that second part was true. It was called Operation Fast and the Furious, where the Obama administration decided to sell guns to the Mexican cartel to try to do a tracking of the system to see if they could track the guns, go from over the border, and see how they migrate their way back into the states. So yeah, no, we do dumb shit and give guns to bad people for science experiments too, so I mean,
and the cartels mostly kept them shit.
Hell yeah, they're like, hey, shit, y'all don't want none of this dope? You don't want no dope?
Well, the mass shooters cause the most damage. So what do you think about arming teachers? Because now that's back on the
I think
table.
that's ridiculous.
Hey,
That's dumb.
I think they should definitely arm teachers or have some sort of armed security. And you know what? We have armed security at concerts. Why is that considered dumb?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. First of all, who says the teachers want to be armed? They're going in, they go to get a degree and they go to teach. And now you're putting the responsibility of them to carry a gun to stop some mass shooter. Another thing is they've run studies where even the people in the classroom knew that they were running a study, knew a gunman was going to come in there, and could not react fast enough to grab their weapon before they were all dead in the experiment. So will it stop? Maybe it will stop. Maybe it will stop. Maybe everybody wants to bring up the example of look, if this guy wasn't armed, yeah, I'm sure that works. But I'm just saying, to arm every teacher, I see lawsuits and disasters. And when that kid goes in there and grabs that teacher's gun and shoots the teacher, yeah, I see lawsuits. I don't think
it doesn't have. It doesn't even have to be a teacher. It could just be. I forgot what state it was. But they hired.
She said arming teachers.
Well, I mean, yeah, I use that as an example, but just arming somebody in the school, having some force there that could provide, immediate, security. When dealing with an armed shooter scenario.
I agree with that 110%. Hold on, Tristan. I agree with that 110%. There should be an armed guard at the school.
I forgot what state it was where they hired prior military veterans that patrol the school campuses armed, and they don't see any gun shooting. They don't see any violence like that going on in other schools. Why? Because the students know that shit, there is already a group here of people here that will, stop them, or at least, ruin their success rate in doing so. There is a consequence if they try to do that.
I don't believe in arming teachers. I think that would be a fucking disaster.
Yeah, me too.
Teachers want to be armed, even though they throwing that idea around. But schools should have armed guards. They should.
I mean, we arm concerts.
Well, yeah, that's fine. That's different.
We have celebrities with armed security, and we think that's cool, and we're okay with that. Our senators and political officials are surrounded by armed guards, and that's cool. But why don't we arm the most valuable thing that we have, which is our children?
That's different. That when you frame it like that, of course, you. But then you're going to have to come up with, and I know a lot of you guys don't like federal funding for that, because if you go to New Orleans, maybe they don't have the money to have armed guards. You go where I live, yeah, we got money to have armed guards. Then you're talking about, so if you're talking about arming all the schools, it's got to come out of the taxes.
But I also think the approach doesn't have to be every school. I think they should also use, you know.
Well, New
you're-
Orleans is one of them that should have it, and they're
I mean,
poor.
Not
as fuck.
every school. What school? See, that's when the redlining starts kicking in.
Okay, like
Right,
Not every school,
exactly.
huh?
Red
when I say
line
you don't need
in
to
full
arm every
effect.
school is like, okay, if this area is not a high crime rate, if we don't see, you know, issues like this in this area.
But look,
then
Columbine
why-
didn't
Parkland,
have a
Parkland
high
wasn't a
crime
high
rate.
crime rate. Parkland
Columbine
wasn't
wasn't a
Yeah,
high
but
crime
Uvalde was
rate.
not a high crime rate.
I know, I understand that, but I'm saying in certain areas we tend to see more violent crimes with guns surrounding that neighborhood, and
but not
gun issues
necessarily
being
in the
there at the
schools,
same
but not-
time. You would want to maybe you make sure that we start with there, and then you know,
But
let it
violence
filter out.
in the area is not the same as violence in the school. That's a different. That's a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, if there's violence in the area, it
No,
tends to
actually,
violence
necessarily.
tends to fall
Most
into
school
the school.
shooters are not coming from impoverished.
Nobody was even saying impoverished. I wasn't even talking
right,
about
but I
that.
didn't finish. They're not coming from those violent criminalized areas. Most of them are coming from middle home backgrounds where you don't see pervasive violence in their community.
Well, where people using guns and having access to guns has been normalized. That's not normalized in lower in impoverished communities. It's kind of is in a it's a, you know, it's there, but it's nothing that's celebrated. Nobody's buying anybody guns in the hood for their 12th birthday.
You been to
doesn't-
Chicago.
Yeah, actually I've been to Chicago quite a bit. Southside Chicago is where half my family lives currently.
I mean, they have a really bad gun violence issue over there.
Yeah, but nobody's buying. Nobody knows. There's no 12-year-old whose father takes him out and buys him a gun on his 12th birthday because they can do it and normalize using guns for sport and what have you. It's not. It's never
Well,
that.
I mean, it's
And in inner city,
the type
inner
of
cities,
guns are
people
different,
aren't
though.
coming and shooting people with semi-automatic guns or rifles. You may, if somebody comes, there's maybe a handgun tucked in a backpack, somebody pulls out and they shoot somebody that they hate. They're not going in and just shooting
deer
people
and
who
shit
just
like
happen to be
like
people
the
there.
6-year-old that just shot the teacher.
Exactly. Like it's the first week back, and you gave me an F. Like I ain't get no Christmas presents because Miss Sandra gave me a F right before the holiday. I'm just saying.
They had said
Who
there
knows?
was an argument. They said there was an argument between a 6-year-old and the
What I say?
We
She
don't
said
know.
something, and he went off.
And see, that
Wait,
goes back to the
6-year-olds
point
argue?
of the parents and the way that they're raising their kids too. Like, why are you? How are you raising your kids that they can argue with an adult? Why are you letting your kids argue with a teacher?
I don't
That's
know
like,
any
where's that going on?
6-year-olds that are, I don't know any 6-year-olds literally, and I've worked in these spaces. I don't know any 6-year-olds. If at 6 years old, if you're arguing with teachers, if you have that type of combative personality, there are other problems there. There's a predisposition there. I think ultimately, if we want to mitigate these problems, again, you have to start in the home. There has to be some type of intervention, because I don't know anything about this story. I'm not gonna. I don't know the familial background. I don't know. I'm gonna assume they're white, but I don't know anything else. So I don't know if it was a single mom, it was a mom and a dad. Like, what's the background?
I mean, it really just
I-
goes back
I
to
don't-
parents not parenting.
And Glenn, I want to say this. I am a gun owner. There are 2 guns in my house in biometric locks that I'm in things that are locked up, safe. My kids know
Same
never
here.
to go to it and stuff like that. So I'm not against gun ownership and whatsoever, but I'm just saying. But having 2 friends, my sister-in-law works as a teacher, and a woman who used to be who comes on my podcast pretty often is the vice principal of a teacher. She said the biggest worry of teachers isn't the fact that they would have to kill an intruder or training. The biggest worry actually is a teacher killing a student.
Yeah,
That's the biggest worry of most
that's what I
teachers.
said.
It's
It's a
like because
lawsuit waiting to happen.
yeah,
Are you talking about
that's the
killing
biggest
an
thing that they're
innocent
worried
student?
about.
Are you talking about killing-
Getting into an altercation, because we've all seen the videos where the kid is up in the teacher's face or punches the teacher and stuff like that. The biggest worry is out of reflex that teacher is going to misjudge the situation, and their recourse is going to be to pull out a gun and shoot a kid, that it could have been de-escalated in other ways.
Well, I mean,
So that's the biggest
the
thing
same
that's to
issue
worry
when
I
about.
we see with
mean,
our,
look, listen, I'm
our,
a
law,
GP
our
kid.
law enforcement
What
too,
could go
right?
wrong?
Retraining, training properly, training, not
Training,
to.
listen, training is not going to, you're getting pummeled by a kid. Your mind's not thinking about all the training you've got. Your mind's thinking, I want to get this person off of me. And you might be angry. And once you get angry, all logic is out. You're like,
And
that's
Yeah,
why
because
people,
And
that's
also,
why
what is
people, that's why people on the highway pull out guns in
Yeah.
road rage incidents. It's not because they're necessarily bad people. It's because they get really angry and they don't think with their logical part of their mind because that gets disconnected.
And
I
if
would-
the schools were warehousing the guns, just like there's been a rash in gun shop break-ins, school break-ins would just be through the roof. People breaking into schools
point.
to steal
point.
guns or
And-
what have you.
And I would also say that it probably speaks to a larger societal problem. If you live in a society where your teachers need to have guns, where your teachers need to be trained in this capacity, when really the expectation is that they foster learning and cultivate learning in children, like, what does that say about a society? That's a failed society. And to go in that direction is a problem.
But wait, to me, does anybody else find it weird that these kids are getting younger with these shootings?
Well, access to like
I don't think I ever heard a 6-year-old shoot a teacher.
Well, see that.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
see-
let's not pretend that even that this is not like that. That's an anomaly. That's not statistically. It's not something that that happens a lot. It's not going to happen a lot, right? But yeah, for it to happen at 6, like what?
It might be an outlier, but once you see it, stuff starts to tick up. It could be like, hey, be that one kid from Newark, but oh, wait a minute, my uncle has one. Oh,
Newport.
he did this. He did this. Okay, hold on. I got something from Miss Jackson tomorrow.
Yeah, but
No.
that's a
America
that's a
introduces
societal problem. That's
American
a problem.
families introduce gun ownership or just the gun culture to youth at the youngest age of any other civilized country. We expose our children to guns way younger than anybody else, and just because we buy them guns, we show them guns. There's guns on the wall display. You go to other countries, you don't see guns displayed on the walls and stuff like that, on over the mantle and stuff like that. That's an American thing that we do. It's just one of the things that, because America we are addicted to freedoms, all freedoms. Doesn't matter the freedoms. If it's a freedom to say, hey, I was born a biological male and I'm going to be a woman. It's freedom to say I can buy 30 guns. I'm one person living in a house, but I need 30 guns and call myself. We mainline freedoms in it. So anything that we feel like is a threat to our freedoms, we fight tooth and nail to protect, or we fight against it. If we feel like it's a threat to our freedoms, that's
Even
what we are.
things that we think are freedoms that are not really freedoms, we do.
But
that
some of those, but some of that is, and I think a lot of that ends up being detrimental to the sense of community and sense of society. Is the fight for in these freedoms that people deem so important.
I agree
Well,
with that.
that's true, but the issue is these conversations happen on the internet where the internet is still insulated, right? This is as much as people are on the internet. These conversations is less than 1% of what the population is kind of having. So it's like, in reality, these politicians are not going to worry about it because they're like, it's the internet.
Well, they're gonna worry about it if
But it's not going to rise to the level of any political involvement because it's
Exactly.
not happening at that level either.
Because that senator is going to look at that data and like this is 1% of an issue.
Right.
Well, why am I worried about it?
And if you really think the laws are going to change it, the politicians, it's a game to them. It's a political game, right? Because they don't. If you really think that politicians want things to get fixed, then I'm sorry, you're kind of sleeping on reality
Yeah,
here,
listen,
because
politicians
they don't-
want to be in office, Glenn, and
exactly. And how did they do that?
As my friend just pointed out, there's nothing more American than freedom, And if you take freedom away from an American, that American's going to take you out of office. So it's kind of like the politicians and the citizens and the nation, they're kind of working in tandem.
Yeah, there's more money in the cure than in the treatment than the cure when it comes to America.
That's
and
what
politics.
I'm trying to get at, is like they don't really want to fix the solutions, because if they fix the solutions, then they tend to become out of a job. They survive off of keeping, you know.
What does that say about the citizens who are voting to keep them in office?
That they're uninformed and easily swayed.
Exactly.
Right, but we're specifically talking about gun laws, right? You can't take my gun out my hand.
They're uninformed and easily swayed through fear.
The happiest the happiest person, and this has happened over multiple presidents, the happiest people to see Clinton, Obama, and Biden get elected were the gun shops and the manufacturers of ammunition. Every time, because I see it here. We gotta go get more guns. Yeah. They're gonna take our guns away. We gotta go get more. Dude,
that's with everything.
How many guns do you need? You have 2 hands.
I mean, that's with everything. That's with everything. You know, fear drives sales. When you think that they're gonna take your guns, they increase sales of guns, right? You know, when they think that the Slurpee at 7-Eleven is going to go out, people that weren't buying Slurpees are all of a sudden at 7-Eleven trying to get a Slurpee.
We saw that with toilet paper.
It was funny because shortly after they did the Brady bill, that required the 5-day waiting period to get a gun. There was I forgot who was it who sponsored another bill, and they said they wanted to limit gun ownership to anyone in the home who wanted to. You could own 2 guns. You could own a handgun and a rifle, and that's it. Because they figure there's no need realistically to have more than 2 guns in your house per every adult in any circumstances. And I mean, it got shot down like crazy because the NRA poured so much money into lobbyists to kill it that it went almost nowhere. But I was thinking that seems like a sensible law. It's like, if you're an adult, why do you need more than one fire? If you don't, and if you need more, like you want to register for sports shooting or whatever, then you have to register, and it is something that you need to do on a annual basis to register and prove that you're using it for sporting. I mean, there's things that could happen, but nobody's going to go that far because, like you said, the NRA is a funding machine. They pour so much money into politics that any real sensible gun laws will never make it past any Senate hearings.
I love these conspiracies. Who in the hell that Star pushing that bullshit? Nobody knows if that teacher was touching anybody. I was listening. I'm like, man. I mean, I know that's his show, but I'm like, that's a bunch of garbage.
But we have to understand that as these teachers are, as the generations go by, these teachers are, I guess, they're more desensitized about students because they are worried about the performance of their class as a whole. I said we had an individual student that had a problem that the teacher could not communicate very well with, or didn't try to communicate very well with, and got shot. So
I don't know.
That's an issue.
I don't know. I don't know, because as a parent, my 5-year-old, I've said shit to him and he's trying to boss up on me. You know, I put him down real quick, but it was just like he tried to boss up. That's what they do. Kids try to assert themselves, especially when they're learning their place and learning what boundaries they can cross. And especially if they have a lack of like role models to kind of like, you know, tell them what's appropriate at home. So, you know, I wouldn't blame it. I don't want to blame the teacher because she couldn't reach him, because it may have been a situation where her communication style and what's been effective for him growing up has not been something that the kid responded to. But it wasn't, I don't think, I wouldn't never put it back on her like, hey, he had an issue or you wasn't doing the right thing or what have you. I think it's more of what it kind of butt heads with what they're probably been told at home.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree for the simple fact that, you know, I've had a child in an inner city school and some of those teachers are bitches, straight bitches.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, sometimes they interact with certain kids a certain way and other kids, like I've literally experienced a teacher picking on children, right? Or zeroing in on a child. Now, is it justified? No. You know what I mean? Maybe it was the perfect storm of the environment that child is in at home and something he's reacting to regarding the teacher. Because in order for him, of course, he's only 6 years old. What does he know about death really, right? But he's reacting to something, overreacting to something that she was doing. I don't think it was, just, oh, I'm gonna go in and kill my teacher today. There had to be something there, and we don't know what it is. So I'm not completely going to absolve this woman because we don't know who the fuck she is or how she teaches.
Yeah.
Well, society has taught people that guns are a resolution, for guns are for resolution, not for protection. That's what it is. It's you solve problems with guns as opposed to protecting what things. And I think that's what's going on. I think that's a bigger issue where he thought solving his issue with this teacher, the resolution was the shooter.
I agree with that because they said there was an argument between the teacher and the child. I don't know what a 6-year-old could be arguing about, but apparently there was an argument between the two before that happened.
But Jen, did he bring the gun? He brought the gun to school. This was planned.
Yes.
Yeah. To me, it feels like he's been having issues with this teacher for a minute. There is no kid on one day is gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna shoot this teacher today. It was she's been trying that boy for a minute. I know it's a boy because this is what a boy would do. I know that's a boy.
Oh, it was. They said it was, and I believe Star was pushing that it was a black kid, right? That's what Star was pushing. I don't know where he got that from.
I don't think so.
Released that, but Star's gonna up the ante.
It could have been, but I want to say it's a black kid because most black kids are very much they know this is the threat we get in our homes. Do not make me have to leave my job to come to your club, to your school. That is 100% a fact. That is a fear. That is a threat. Our parents tell us all the time. Them kids are being
It really doesn't.
About parents being culpable because of the lack of involvement, because they're always working. We had that conversation, and that includes that.
Them little kids have the fear of God. From 6 to 12, they have the fear of God from their black parents.
It really doesn't matter.
I'm coming to the
doesn't
school.
matter if it was a black or white kid. The fact that he's a 6-year-old, I could see if he was, and it's justifying it, but if he was in a high school, you almost like, oh yeah, they were having that teacher. There was some back and forth. How you have a back and forth with a 6-year-old?
No, that's what I'm saying. If a 6-year-old is presenting like that, if this was like a chronic thing with the 6-year-old, there are problems there. Like there are absolutely problems before this incident, and this could have, not to say that this is an inevitability, but there are more problems.
To me, the concept of pulling the whole thought process of pulling out a gun and shooting an adult, that's a learned response, and you probably learned it from the environment that he grew up in. There's
most 6-year-olds I know don't know that a gun can kill you. Don't know that. Don't even understand what a gun does. That's what I'm saying. This is
in America. Well, I'll disagree with that. In America, they do because it's all over.
No,
the place.
I want to say that.
I promise you, I do not know one 6-year-old that knows what a gun can do, what a gun is. They don't. 6-year-olds don't even process information in that way.
Well, there's a lot of families where, like I said, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. Both of them know exactly why they should not go near go anywhere near this box because it has a gun and a gun can kill you.
Well, that's different. Like where over here we have very most Canadians don't have guns, right? So we don't have to have the conversation. It's not as big of a problem. So that's a different conversation. You having that conversation with your children, that makes sense. Them understanding a gun in that context makes sense. A 6-year-old who's taking it from a friend of a friend or from an adult in their vicinity, that's a different that's different, and that's a problem.
Yeah, they've learned to view guns as a resolution and not of a form of protection.
But they've learned it from the society, right? It's not just home. Obviously,
That's
home
true.
is the first place that they learn, but they're learning in a society that brute force violence, including violence through the use of weapons and guns. That's how you get things done.
Home is where you're supposed to learn context for everything that you hear in the world. Anytime my kid hear anything out in the world, they come to me like, I heard this, and it's my job as a parent to give it context, so they can explain and break it down for them to where they can understand it. And I think that's not happening a lot. Like you said, our society is built on freedoms and freedom to bear arms and have guns and things like that. And to, one thing I say about guns in America, the reason why things will never change, and this isn't an original statement. I saw this in this one movie called with Colin Firth. He said, America will never do anything about the problems with guns because it allows too many pussies to feel like tough guys.
Bingo.
So
yes,
I
absolutely.
agree with that.
and I think that's what happens is like that is propagated, and it's the context is not given to the children. And like, whoa. Let me tell you what that means. So let me explain it to you, or what have you, what that means. So they think like, I'm not tough. She's bigger than me. I have a gun. I'm going to shoot her. That's the way it is. It's a resolution. I've resolved my problem. Problem is she's yelling at me. Resolution. I bring her to school and I kill her.
I mean,
Well, I think that kid had like most kids that young, they had a reality check. It's a shock to their system, because what did it say? Oh, he shot the teacher. Basically, it's been one shot, and he more than likely he got scared and dropped that gun when everybody screamed, and he realized he hurt the teacher, because the teacher would have been dead if this kid was not really sane in the brain, right? So, because most kids would push that envelope, like, already got her down, so I'm gonna finish her off. He didn't. He shot her because he didn't realize how, like you said, he didn't realize what a gun could do.
Yeah, you realize he's shooting somebody and killing somebody. Or kids don't have the capacity necessarily to make that connection. That
No,
like,
they
okay,
don't,
if I
but-
point this
but-
gun and shoot
But I
somebody,
mean, it's all speculation too. The reason
Yeah.
why Star's assuming that the boy is black is because it's a predominantly black and brown community. That's why he was saying that. I disagree. No, saying you said it doesn't matter what race he is. Oh yes, the fuck it does. Because as soon as it drops, whatever his race is, social media is gonna be ablaze. If it's white, if he's white, it's gonna be ablaze one way, and if he's black, it's gonna be ablaze.
I should qualify saying that doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to you, but that's how it's gonna go. This can cause a digital. I'll say a digital war.
Well, yeah, and yeah.
Because she's white too, because the teacher is white. So that's
Yes, there's always going to be the people that are going to use that as to prove their racist sentiments.
Because I honestly believe if the kid was black, there would have been nothing but reports of this teacher was dealing with an angry kid.
Well, I kind of think that's where
months.
I kind of think that's where Dana was going when she said mental illness, is because when it's a white kid, they usually try to bring up mental illness. You know what I mean? I think that's where Dana was coming with that mental illness.
But she
point.
she doesn't know what race the kid is.
Wait, who's Dana?
Star was pushing the whole, saying he was a black kid. So I think that's what she was.
Is that Jen's alter ego, Dana? Who's
No,
Dana?
that's another YouTuber.
Yeah.
y'all must have been on the Star Report.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm not on there.
This is where we learn context.
Yeah, like they throwing a whole new name. I'm like, did he just?
Well, she knew what I was
name
talking
Dana?
about.
I'm like, what?
Well,
Sorry,
you
guys.
knew what we were talking about because
Yeah.
No
She
Say
was-
heard on the show earlier today.
Yeah.
I was on our report earlier. So
Got you.
yeah.
I think that if the child is black, it matters. It matters in the way that we have to kind of reevaluate and approach things at a societal level. Black people among black people, or as a community, as a society overall, because we're not going to act like violence isn't a problem, and we're not going to act like sort of the culture around violence or guns to some degree. We're not going to act like it's not a problem in the Black community.
No, it is a problem, but now let's say this kid is Black compared to most other races. Now every young Black 6-year-old is going to be looked at as a potential threat.
So it's back to super predator, right? Like it's back
So-
to that kind of thinking. But again, I don't think anybody here adheres to that or subscribes to that. You're on this panel, so it's not who cares. But yeah, we have to evaluate the consumption that children have access. Like, what are they consuming at 6 years old? What information? What media? What what are they consuming at this age? Because we're not going to act like that's not that's not a predictor. It doesn't have any influence. It does.
But
Well,
it's
the
so
kid is
ingrained
Black,
in our
you definitely
society
know it's
that
power.
everything that they
might-
consume
you
has it in
might
it.
like
I remember watching Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd shot Daffy Duck in the
Yes.
face.
Yes. That you missed it a little earlier, Annalicia. I hope I'm getting your name right.
No, you're saying it right. Yeah.
Okay, because I pushed back on Glenn earlier when he was saying the video games and the violence. I said, listen, let's just take like societies of Europe, Australia, United States, Canada. They get the same stuff we get, and they're not killing each other at the rate we're killing each other. So it may have some influence, but like he was saying, like we had violence growing up. We had the cartoons and we had the movies, and don't turn on the evening news and see all the violence that goes on, especially if you grow up in a place like I grew up, where
I
you had
gotta
a
say though,
murder a day.
I'm gonna push back on that because the way we got our violence when we were kids, literally, I mean, a Daffy Duck and a bunny. Again, now these kids are playing video games where you can sexually assault a prostitute. Okay, that looks like a woman. The graphics are great. You could sexually assault a prostitute and shoot her in the head. You know what I mean? In video games. So the way we receive that, like, you know, the coyote and the road
Right.
runner and him
Yeah,
driving-
I know.
But it's supply. But Jen, it's supply and demand because all of these other nations and countries, Europe, it can't like everyone has access to the same thing.
Yes.
But a society and a nation chooses that you get to pick and choose, right? You get to pick and choose what values you have, what's important, what you consume.
Well, China says no, the fuck yeah, ain't no TikTok.
Exactly.
Right, but look at their violence rates, right? Like look at more homogenized nations, more unified nations, and not just in terms of like ethnicity and race. There are nations that are sort of built upon the idea that look, no one's better than the other. Like you're not better than me, especially in Europe. They have this kind of like you're not better than me, I'm not better than you. Nobody should have more than each other. Everybody should relatively have the same things, and they get on better as a society. Like there are just like we choose what we subscribe to and what our values are as a community and a society. And North America, specifically America, chooses violence. Like that's
Yeah,
just,
I don't know. That's
you don't think
go
that's
ahead.
by design? You don't think a lot of that's by design? Like they purposely promote certain things here in this country, and then you just get desensitized and used to seeing it.
Yeah,
Because that's where the money is.
Yes.
By design.
I don't think it's by design.
And I just want to
Not
just
to
push back on
not
something.
to the extent that it not to and even still correlation and causation. I don't think it's to the extent that that you guys might think it is. I don't think it's by design like that.
So
Yeah,
you don't like record labels, whether they're Jewish owned or white owned, whatever. I don't care who owns them, but they are allowing certain content to be pushed out to a certain demographic. That you don't think that's by design,
Right, but
Because they don't do that with country music. Like country singers are not talking about their women are bitches and hoes and fucking them in the ass and fucking their men, but right.
So all right.
is not doing
right,
that.
but it's supply and demand, right? Like
So our
it's the left and the right hand. You have to, in order for them to have something to push, people have to be willingly engaging with them. If you're willingly engaging with someone who's pushing out a message that's culturally detrimental to your people or to a society, that you're culpable as well. So I can't
Well,
say.
I agree with you. I agree with you because I look at the degeneracy and I'm like, you guys listen to this music. These are the women you champion. These are the men you. I get that. I'm talking about a 6-year-old who has
But
no.
I just want to push back. That's not something that's
Illegal.
uniquely American, you know, because you brought up like Europe and others. There's always going to be a class or caste system in every place you go. You go to London, the Pakistanis are treated different from the Nigerians, and who are treated different from the Caucasian English.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that system. Sometimes theirs is broken down on a racial basis, but you can go to India. In India, there is no middle class. There's either people with money or broke people. That's it.
I agree, but what I'm saying is, it's more. There's always there. Listen, colonization is going to exist everywhere, right? Like that colonized mindset with respect to skin color, caste, and all of that. That's going to exist all over the free world. But what you do see in Europe, and this is probably as a result of socialism versus culture. Well, it kind of influences culture, but they have different values, and also the way that they see themselves it's not the same as North America. Like it's just not. And socialist countries tend to do better. They just do.
David Dillon says, but people were buying conscious music. The company heads chose to promote the degeneracy. I remember conscious hip-hop.
Okay, so let me talk about country music. So they must be promoting alcoholism, right?
Yeah,
That's incorrect what David Dillon
I've
said.
listened to country
What do you
music.
mean?
Well, I'm saying country music isn't some kind of innocent, non-promoting thing. It promotes alcoholism. It promotes
Infidelity.
It promotes.
Wait a minute. We're not. Hold on, white man. Wait a minute. We're not going to compare a couple broken-hearted country singers talking about, Tennessee whiskey and I cheated on my woman. Wait a minute. To black women are hoes and bitches and dogs, and I'm gonna walk these bitches in on leashes, and I'm gonna take your fucking man, and I'm gonna stick the Sprite can in my mouth and up my pussy, and everybody should be on drugs, and we should kill this nigga because this nigga.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's a little different than Tennessee whiskey.
I've listened to country music. I'm not saying that it's analogous. I'm saying that I've listened to country music, and because it sounds so nice, I miss it. Like he'll say, "I just slipped my thing." Like it's very sexually explicit. It's extremely erotic, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is what white people are listening to now.
And same as rock.
Rock. I was going to say. What did you say? Guns N' Roses, "Welcome to the Jungle." His first words is "Welcome to the jungle. You're gonna die."
Yeah, talking about shoes.
Are you trying to tell me? Are y'all trying to tell me that the rock music?
No, we're not. No.
We're not trying to. We're not trying to say that we're not saying who's more detrimental. I'm just saying as a society, America promotes it in all facets of entertainment. Black people in the black community, it just seems to be propagated a lot more and pushed out a lot and more profitable.
My point was, it is more detrimental in our community.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
Point. It's more
but also it's probably consumption. It's probably that it's being consumed more, and it's probably more not maybe universally palpable. Like I think generally speaking, most countries, like hip hop and rap has kind of infiltrated most countries. Like I don't think that most countries people are sitting down listening to country music. Like I don't think it's like that.
Yeah, in this country, there's more white people that buy the hip hop music and the rap.
It's like who's going to the concert?
The rap.
The rap.
It's like, there's a difference between, like, I don't know. I love Tennessee whiskey, by the way.
That was the whitest shit you ever said, homie.
Well, I was trying to.
The hip hop and the rap.
The rap.
So I'm just saying that when white kids hear Tennessee whiskey,
in my cock,
I'm stupid, yo.
What I was saying was when white kids hear Tennessee whiskey, I don't think they go running out to literally buy Tennessee whiskey, where it's like hip hop, like it resonates with us, right? We want to carry that gun. We want to be that drug dealer. We want to have that jewelry. We want to have that gold. We want to feel, you know what I mean? The white kids aren't running out to the liquor store.
Well, hold on. I think I read something once where some song but I forgot who it was. They mentioned the word Ford Ranger, and Ford Ranger sales in certain areas did spike because somebody mentioned something about
that one time.
the Ford Rangers.
No, but then what I'm saying is why do these kids? It's one thing to hear something, and it's another for it to resonate with you to the extent that you want to emulate it. That's the problem. That because everyone has access to the garbage and the bullshit, and
That's a topic for another day entirely.
Yeah, because community don't level set and give it, like I said, don't give it context. Like I've seen pictures where people have to put guns in cribs with babies and taking pictures with money and guns in cribs with babies. I'm like, that's the kind of shit that like fucking like scrambles my fucking brain or gets me fucking pissed off, is because I'm like, dude, it's like you're already setting this kid up to fail. You're saying you've chosen your path of complete and utter disaster, and there's little you can do to stop it.
So you guys want to do let's do a panel on the rap.
Yeah, I'm laughing.
The hip hop and the rap.
I'm getting a lot of comments on the rap. I see.
Let's do what? Whose fault is it? Is it our consumption of it, or is it like the powers that be putting it out?
I'm coming in full bash mode. I'm coming in full bash mode on that pen. I don't care if anybody makes a reasonable argument. I'm bashing it. I'm just gonna bash it.
The rap sounds
You're
so
not
much like
bashing
the
it.
blacks.
No, it doesn't. Don't hit him with that, man. Don't put that on him, man. I'm gonna hit you.
No Satan's gonna calm down and go talk to his friends and be like, I was talking to the blacks on the panel today.
You know,
that reminds me.
That's
of
my African Americans.
Ron, don't make me go Terrence Howard on you, man. Leave that boy alone, man.
Not the my African Americans.
That's my African American. Yeah.
I love this man.
All right, guys.
Where is Brother Ish when you need him?
And on that note, we are out. We are out. This was amazing. Come back. Do you guys want to come back tomorrow or just pick it up? On Monday?
I can't come back tomorrow.
I'll pick it up on Tuesday. I hate Mondays on this thing. So no, but let's come back and do the rap. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is the rap? Right? I think that's a great topic.
Yeah.
Thank you,
the crackhead or the drug dealer.
Let's hash it out. What's the reason for it?
Let's have a $20 bet right now. Somebody's gonna blame the Jews. I put money on it.
Of course.
Is it gonna be you? No, it's Jen. It's gonna be Jen.
Blame the Jews? No, I'm
It's gonna be Brother Ish. It's gonna be Ish. It's gonna be Ish. I got $20. It's gonna be Ish.
I'm a fan of the Jews, by the way. I'm a fan of the Jews. Go Jews.
Yeah, me too. I'm pro-Jew, YouTube. Pro-Jew.
I am pro-Jewish. People minding their business, running their shit. I have to salute. Gotta salute. All right, guys. So we are out of here. I was hoping to catch the Garcia Davis fight. This probably ran into it. Let me see what happened. Tristan, take us out. I really do love you all. Thank you for this. This was a great meeting of the minds. I let y'all slide today, Annalicia and Dame, but you guys got to cam up. I need faces. It is important for my marketing moving forward.
You know I will. I literally, I'm like, to keep it 100%. I'm post sex funky, so I wasn't. I'm not trying to cam up,
You know what? We wouldn't have known that, Damien. What do you got, like crust on your chin? We wouldn't have known that.
Maybe. Possibly.
I'll make sure I cam up next time, and I'll make sure that I don't go after any of the alphas. I'm sorry, alphas trigger me on YouTube.
And Alicia, we love you here. I just hate when you call people out their names, because then if he was to call you a bitch or something like that, then I have to drop him, and it's not gonna be fair.
And we lose panelists that way.
So call everybody by their names. We all have beautiful names. Everybody call everybody by their own name, because I don't want people to feel like, damn, I didn't even disrespect anybody and I'm being called. I don't know what you called them. You called them something.
I called him Forrest Gump, which it's not necessary. I mean, he was a good guy.
Everybody got a name. Let's everybody use everybody's name.
Yeah, we don't want to lose another. We don't want to lose another big truck.
Yeah, Big Truck is gone. See, I dropped Big Truck.
Rip.
It came back.
Rip. Rest in peace, Big Truck.
We gotta
And
pour a little bit
and
out
I'm just
Big
curious.
Truck.
Tristan is the only one that has the pass, right? He's gonna be like the guy
Yeah,
that you can't.
Tristan is the only one that doesn't have the camera because he adds to the storyline.
He's gonna be the guy like looking over the fence and what's that show
Home
called?
Improvement.
Yo,
Home
you
Improvement.
can't
Oh,
see.
no.
All right,
No,
guys,
but he's-
have an amazing night.
This
Tristan,
is
take us
the
out.
gooch.
Tristan's
All
your
right.
brother.
I have an issue.
Uh-oh.
I opened up a game and I can't exit out. So yeah, when you just okay, wait, I got it. Okay, I got it out. Okay,
We'll take
okay.
your voice.
No, I mean I couldn't switch pictures or nothing. I was stuck in the game.
Oh, Tristan, watch playing. You know how you have the little video games up playing? Watch that too, because I was looking at all the like new laws and rules that YouTube is implementing, and they were talking about like games too being on screen. So watch out for that.
Yeah, you should be good with Genshin Impact. That's a popular game. Yeah, games you should be good. I think it's like well, it's my game because I'm playing it. It would be like if you were using somebody else's stuff, and I was playing like a video of somebody playing the game. But
That's
No, what is that? Your video game? You made that video game?
yeah,
No, he's saying.
no, that's
Okay.
me. That's physically me playing it. I'm physically
No, but
playing
you
it.
put it. No, but you put it on the screen, and they were talking about having video games on the screen. In a little.
Yeah,
I'm gonna become a gamer, Tristan. So I need you to tell me what the laws are.
yeah.
You're
You're allowed to play video games on the screen. It would be like, okay, how can I say it? I can play the video game because I am playing it on Jen's panel, but I can't play a video of somebody else that's not Tristan playing a video game on Jen's panel. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got it.
Like,
let's not play any video games because the way the guy explained it the other day, the guy that's always dropping shit about like the YouTube updates, he had like a little thing on the screen. I don't want to take any chances. I'm monetized. Everybody be cool how they be cool. Okay,
you got it, boss.
Let's not play any
Wait,
music.
is YouTube not lucrative anymore?
No, it's
Oh, it's
still lucrative, but now they're putting more laws on us. Like, don't play this music. You can't put this on the screen. You can't. That's why I need faces, and I don't let people up on the panel unless I see their face. The other day there was a guy backstage with his dick out completely and utterly.
What?
Yes, backstage playing with his dick out.
Was
Right
that the
back-
Freaky Friday show?
I mean,
Yeah.
it was Freaky Friday. I mean, you kind of insinuated that. I'm just saying.
Wow, not
people-
victim blaming. Oh my.
No, Tristan, don't do that. That's like what we wearing.
I know.
Someone shows your mother a dick. Are you gonna be like, "What were you wearing?" No, you're gonna be like,
I mean, this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna show up and we're gonna have a physical conversation. like I am with the threats. I am with physically showing up to people's houses, which I've done on these panels.
Let's just be careful because we like getting paid on here. Okay, that's why we're here. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I love you, Tristan. All right, guys. Good night. I'm out of here.
Peace.
Yeah, it's time.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
We're gonna
I
talk about
love
the
you.
app soon.
There we go. There's Mr. Holland.
Yeah. He said, I love you all, class dismissed. And that is a wrap for the rap.
Good night.
Good night. All right, guys, if you're still here for any reason and you enjoyed the show, please hit that like and subscribe on your way out. Do not forget to hit that like for Mama. Mama likes the likes. All right, if you're catching a replay and you want to support the show, don't forget On the Block with Jen Cash App. You can get me a smoothie on you and come back. I may come back tomorrow. I'm not sure, but we are going to get into this, the rap, right? Hip hop, rap. Whose fault is it that it's so degenerate? Is it our fault because we keep wanting to consume it? Or is it the powers that be, the labels pushing it on us? What came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, hip hop or the hip hop fan, right? So we'll talk about how it's become corrupt and all kinds of sideways and forward, backward shit next time, okay? All right, guys. Good night. Good to see you all here tonight, too. Thanks for spending Saturday night with me. And we're out.